don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Everything just kind of went kaboom. Hello, I think. I hope. I have no idea. I have no idea. Wow. Okie dokie. Hello, Flashman. um, how's your favorite juror? Uh, about to pull my hair out. About to pull my hair out, but that's okay. What's up, Annabelle? Good to see you. Thank you, Gabby. Oh, and this is nice. Let's find out about AJ and how she got crowned Corn Queen. I am not Corn Queen. I probably deserve to be today, though. Like, I was, hey, Shinny. Ah, I was not doing surgery in the ER today. I haven't wound up in the ER yet today. Yet. The day's still going and has 6 hours left, at least on this coast. Good heavens. I apologize for being late, and then I apologize for starting all frazzled. It's Monday, y'all. I have no other excuses. Zero, zilch, it's Monday. Yay for Monday. So, no, we are not doing Lori Vallow today because Lori is ill. And that could mean so many things. But no, she wheeled into the courtroom today and cried and complained and did all the things Lori does. Like, whatever, Lori, you're just delaying the inevitable. You think you're going to pull this one out? Maybe. Grief. So Lori's delayed until Wednesday, at least. It's like I figured, couldn't the state present and wrap up everything in like a day? Like, do they really have to present that much evidence? Does the prosecutor, who we heard in the first Arizona versus Lori, have to go on and on and on and on for hours like she did in the first trial? Like, you don't have to outdo Lori. You're good. You're better. It's fine. Just get to the point, and you don't need to outspeak her. Let's just get this done. And then Lori can go away forever and cry and complain and be the victim forever and ever. See you later. That's my thoughts. If anybody cared. Keywords wheeled into the courtroom. They are not done with jury selection because jury selection was delayed last week because Lori felt ill she felt sickly while they were in jury selection. So they delayed it to today. The judge had said if they could have the jury seated, and I think the preliminary instructions to them by 3 o'clock Arizona time, which would be 6 p.m. this time, they would go into opening statements. And then Lori's like, nope. So maybe she's like, I don't know. Because I kind of need a doctor's note at this point. And not from her own doctor, from an independent one. Yeah, it's supposed to start Wednesday. We'll see. You would think that that's how she would be. Like, who cares? But it's like, no, she's going to win this one. They'll let her out. Everything will come to light. All the lies and deception that we've all fell for. She's innocent, I tell you. Don't free Lori. So I've not had a chance to go through to see exactly who we're going to hear from today, but I do know the first witness is Maria Peralta. That is who met Betty Broderick in jail. So, Shenny, if you're still here, you may see if you know this woman or not, because you knew a Maria, and this wasn't sure. You know, if you knew her. Hello, Carmen. Goodbye, Carmen. Good night, Carmen. Get some sleep. Get some rest. My poor daughter. So, since I kind of just switched gears because that my head today is like, if there could be a cloud above it, it would just be a bunch of things happening all at once that made zero sense. You'd be like, what thought was that? Why is she thinking that? Now she's thinking that. That's just the way it's the way it goes sometimes. But we are going to do the next day, next day in Court TV land of Betty Broderick's testimony in Betty Broderick's case. This case is from 1991, and Betty Broderick is on trial for allegedly unaliving her ex-husband and his new wife of 6 months, Linda Kolkena Broderick. I don't know how happy that I can't do Betty Broderick. I don't know who Patrick is. I just am who I am today. Don't know who it is. Let's make it up as we go. But anyway, so the way I put it, and I don't mean any disrespect to women out there, it just happens that Dan, he traded Betty in for a younger, prettier version. Linda Kolkena, whatever her, Kenna, she was 21 when she met Dan Broderick, who was in his late 30s. And then by the time they got married, he was in his 40s and she was not 30 yet. I don't know who Patrick is. Oh, Patrick from SpongeBob. I thought that might be who you were talking about, but I did not ever get into watching SpongeBob. My brother would know all about it. But anyway, so Betty it pushed, I don't know if it pushed Betty over the edge, because there's just stuff out there about Betty, and who knows if it's true or not. I think they were all three a mess, but I think Dan and Betty were the biggest mess of all. I think they were horrible to each other. I think they pushed and just pushed and pushed each other until they, obviously pushed Betty over the edge, and she did something horrible. And now, the kids, they have 4 kids, and they don't have any parents anymore. So, sorry, I was reading. So we've heard from Betty's 2 daughters. We heard from Lee when we were watching last Thursday. Her daughter Kim was way towards the beginning. And then we heard from Betty's boyfriend, who was like total opposite of Betty. He just like didn't seem like he could get mad about anything, or he had very special brownies before he testified. Not sure, maybe both. Heard from law enforcement. I will tell you that this is an old enough trial where they still show things. So I don't know if we'll see any images today. I have not. I've not watched. I've not watched ahead on today's testimony, so I don't know exactly who's up. There's several different witnesses. I think. Oh, and then it is the courtroom that has the squeakiest chairs ever be invented, and then have microphones by them all the time. So I apologize in advance. Apparently, they didn't know about WD-40 in 1991. It was invented. But so there's a lot of squeaky chairs. And with that, I think I have everything out of the way. Haha, flashback. I hated Woody Woodpecker. Yeah, never eat the brownies at your house. Or never eat the brownies at a house you've never been to before. I totally read that wrong, Gabby. My apologies. I do have it posted. And I think we're ready to roll. We do have closed captions today. I have it sped up just a little bit. If it's too much, let me know. I can back it back down. But I'm going to get out of the way and let this roll.
ERALTA.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Carlton. Have you ever met the defendant in this case, Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us where you met her?
I met her at Las Colinas.
Just need to make sure. You indicated you met her at Las Colinas jail?
Yes.
Were you in jail at the time?
Yes, I was.
When was this?
It was December of 1989, the 23rd to be exact.
And what were you in jail for?
I had gotten picked up for soliciting, and I had some warrants, some traffic tickets, and I had some warrants for being under the influence of a controlled substance.
Do you have a criminal history, Ms. Carlton?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us briefly what it is?
A lot of soliciting cases and being under the influence of a controlled substance.
And when you say being under the influence of a controlled substance, what are you referring to?
Heroin.
Were you addicted to heroin?
Yes, I was.
Are you clean now?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been clean?
I've been clean now for December will be 2 years.
Since December of 1989.
Right.
And when you indicated picked up for soliciting, what are you soliciting prostitution?
Yes.
So that wasn't the first time you'd been in Las Colinas jail, is that?
No, it wasn't.
When you were in Las Colinas jail, did you have any conversations with Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, I did.
And did she say anything to you about why she killed Deanna Linda Broderick?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
Well, she told me a lot of things. Why?
How did she talk about that?
Well, just kind of like matter of factly, you know.
What did she say? Did she say anything about shooting Linda?
What do you mean?
Did she make any statements about her feelings towards Linda and why she might have shot her?
Oh, well, yeah, she was, really mad at her.
Do you recall any specific statements she said about her?
Yes.
Can you repeat that for us?
They had a lot of nasty words.
Well,
Just say it like she said it.
if you could say it as best you recollect how the defendant said it.
Well, quoting Betty, she had said about Linda, that fucking bitch has been in my bed for 7 years. And she had always referred to her as the office bimbo. She said her husband had given her that name, a fancy title, that she was nothing but a clerk typist, but her husband had, since she was screwing her husband, that he gave her the title of being a paralegal.
Sustained.
Did she? It's okay. Are you a little bit nervous about testifying?
A little bit.
You don't particularly want to be here, do you?
No, I don't.
You didn't volunteer to come and testify.
No.
When she made the statement about Linda and the quote about her being in her bed for 7 fucking years, can you describe how she said that? What was her attitude, demeanor? How was she talking about it?
Her attitude towards what?
Well, her attitude towards the statement. How was she angry? Was she sad? How did she say that statement?
But she wasn't angry. She wasn't really sad. She just said it. Maybe I took it like if she was mad at the girl for doing that.
Okay. Did she make any statements about how she had shot them?
Well, she just told me that she went in the room and shot 5 times, and she got 2 of them. She got 2 bullets in the girl and 1 in her husband.
And did she say whether or not anything about her accuracy? Whether she'd been a good shot?
Well, she'd tell me that she had taken some kind of shooting lessons when she was back in New York, and that she considered herself an expert marksman person, ops person, or whatever you call it.
And how did she describe her accuracy about shooting Dan and Linda?
She said, I got 3 out of 5,
Did she say whether or not anything about that she wasn't as good as she used to be?
Oh, yeah. She said, I guess I'm not as good as I used to be. I got 3. I only got, out of 5, I only got 3 in.
when she told you that she had used to be an expert marksman, did she say anything about her fears that someone would find out about that?
Yeah, she was referring to you as well. She said, I hope that the DA doesn't find out about it.
About what?
About her being such a good shot. Because wouldn't she love to get wind of that? I don't know if she said it worded exactly like that, but something to meaning something like that. Like, would she like to get wind of that she was such a good shot?
Now, you indicated that she told you that she had shot Linda twice and Dan once, right?
Correct.
Okay, she described that for you.
Yeah.
Now, was this something that were you pulling information out of her, or was she?
Oh, we were just in there together, and she, I wasn't different from volunteer this information, and I tell her things about that, and she, I never come to, she would volunteer it, I don't like hearing about things like that.
Did she talk freely about having killed Dan and Linda?
Yes, she did.
She talked to other people about it?
Yeah, she would talk to some other people about it.
Did she ever express any remorse about having done it?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, can you describe what her attitude was about having shot two people?
Well, and
Your Honor, I'm having objection calls for.
No.
Go ahead.
should I continue?
Do you remember the question?
Yes, well, to me, she never showed no remorse. I mean, she'd talk about it real matter of factly, and she never showed that she was sorry or anything. I mean, she'd never be crying when she talked about Linda or Daniel. She would never show any feelings of being upset or crying or anything like that. So that kind of told me that she didn't care one way or another. It didn't bother her.
How was it that the prosecution or investigator from the DA's office even found out about you?
Well, when I was in jail with Betty, when I got arrested, I had this little studio card with me, and Betty had saw it, and she asked me, she goes, "When you..."
Objection, not responsive.
Sustained. Sounds like it's not responsive. I can't tell yet.
I think it was responsive, but that's okay. There was a card that she had seen that you had in your
Yes,
possession.
I had this card. He wanted me to send her one just like it when I got out. So when I got out of jail, I mailed her a card just like it, and I mailed it to Betty.
Your Honor, may I have marked as People's Exhibit 58? And envelope and card, as well as a one-page letter.
An envelope, card, and letter all marked 58.
Yes.
So marked.
And if you would take a look at what's been marked as People's 58, the card and the envelope, go ahead and take a look at it. Can you identify that?
Yeah, that's the one I sent to her.
And you sent that card to her because she asked you to when you
Yeah,
gave
she asked me to mail her one. She wanted to send it to her boyfriend. So I said, sure. So when I got out of jail, I mailed her a card. This must be it. And I guess she in turn mailed it to you. And that's how I got in this case. You contacted me.
I have no further questions.
Roger Salmon. The district attorney asked you to go through your record with your members, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. But you've also been in jail for some forgeries, haven't you?
yes,
Some thefts,
Mhm.
some child abuses.
no, wasn't a child abuse,
You've been arrested for child abuse, have you not?
child endangerment, yes,
The time that you were in custody, you had been on methadone, isn't that right?
yes,
Okay. And when you were in custody, you were coming down from methadone,
yes,
and methadone is a very hard drug to come down from.
no,
You don't.
not to me, it's not. I didn't come down hard off of it.
Okay. But during this period of time, you would be coming off methadone, would you not?
Yes,
Remember talking to the district attorney and asking them, am I going to get paid for this?
the reason I said that was because,
Well, first of all, just answer.
oh, yes, I said that,
You asked, am I going to get paid for the testimony? Is that
yes.
right? Did you want to get paid for the testimony?
No, I meant it as a joke because me being a ex-working girl, we don't do anything for nothing. That's what I meant it as, not getting paid, whatever.
The time that you were in there, what part of housing were you in? Where
I
were
was
you?
in,
What?
I think they call it I forgot what area they call it, lockup or whatever.
Well, you were in A housing, weren't you?
A housing, right, A housing.
And A housing, there's a reason you go in A housing, isn't there?
Mhm.
And why were you in A housing?
I was in there for medical reasons.
And what medical reasons were those?
Well, because I had an infection in my foot, because I had some surgery in there and it was getting real infected. And plus because of the methadone, because sometimes when you're taking methadone, they like to keep you separated from the other girls.
Well, they have an infirmary for medical problems, don't they?
I guess they do.
And A housing is not the infirmary, is it? A housing is for people who are either, who can't be in general population or have a case a lot of people know about, maybe some problems or if informants or someone is dangerous, right?
I guess so.
And you recall, now when you were in jail, you were talking to Betty about taking some courses in the law, is that correct?
Yes.
And that you knew a lot about the law. In fact, you said that she was pretty stupid, in your opinion, about, she had degrees, but she appeared to be pretty stupid about the ways of the world.
Can I tell who?
I were talking to Mr. Green and saying that she had some degrees and, but she didn't know too much, didn't seem too bright.
If I remember correctly, I said she doesn't realize how much trouble she's in.
That's what you remember saying?
Mhm.
You don't remember making a statement she had some degrees, but she's not too bright?
I might have said that. A lot of things were discussed.
And the statement about that you've attributed to her from Linda, those were her exact words, is that correct?
What was that again?
Those were the exact words that Elizabeth Broderick used, is that correct? The ones that you've attributed to her talking about Linda?
Yes.
And what name would she call Linda all the time?
She never called her by her first name.
Well, did she always call her the bitch in my bed, the bitch here?
Yes.
Okay, and was that the name she used all the time?
Yes, she never once called her Linda.
Well, what other names did she call her?
Just what you said.
Okay, you don't remember any other names other than the bitch?
Bimbo, bitch, slut.
The, now, her case was in the paper a lot at that time, is that correct?
I guess it was.
Well, a lot of people were talking to her about her case and her facts. I mean, she was somebody that people in jail would talk to, a lot of other inmates.
Nobody went around following Betty, if that's what you're trying to get at. I mean, I didn't go out of my way to follow her, if that's what you're trying to get me to say.
No, I just asked whether people talked to her about her case. People knew who Betty Broderick was.
She talked to them.
Did people know who she was?
Well, I guess they did, yeah.
The, when she talked about Dan, she talked about him in the present tense, didn't she?
She did.
You thought that was a little bizarre that she would refer to him as always as if he was alive.
I did. Yes.
You, her statement to you was that she was arrested at their home. That's what she told you.
I don't recall her making a statement like that to me. I think she told me she went home and then turned herself in.
Well, do you remember telling Mr. Green that the statement she made to you is that she went to her house and the police came and arrested her there?
I don't recall making a statement like that. I recall making a statement that she went to her house and I thought she had turned herself into the police. That's what I thought I told Mr. Green.
Did you review anything before your testimony? Did you read anything or listen to anything?
No,
So you've never heard your interview, is that correct?
I looked at it last February.
And have you looked at it since then?
What are you referring to, Mr. Early?
Your interview, have you looked at your interview since then? Since
Do I
last
have to answer
February?
that? Yes, I did,
Was there a reason that you asked her whether you could answer that question?
Yeah.
Why is that?
because I wanted to know if I had to answer the question.
And when did you read your interview?
I read it this morning.
I don't have any further questions.
I tried to get you to testify back a long time ago for the preliminary hearing, right?
Yes,
And you wouldn't do it, right?
right.
And after the
Your
preliminary
Honor, I'm
hearing,
going to object. There was an attorney there at the time. Versus beyond the scope, there was an objection by them at the time. I'd like to then have those people in there.
Sustained.
sustained on what grounds? I mean, he's gone into,
Relevance of it at this point, whether she refused to testify on the advice of counsel.
oh, well, I mean, that's fine if you refuse to testify on the advice of counsel. It
No,
doesn't matter.
oh.
The question I was asking is that for whatever reason, you refused to testify at the preliminary hearing, correct?
Uh-huh.
And then sometime after the preliminary hearing, did you run into me on the street on Broadway?
Yes, I did.
And what did you say to me? Did you talk?
Then I changed my mind.
And why did you change your mind?
Because I started having guilt feelings about those, people being dead, and I thought maybe those.
Your Honor, I'm going to object, Your Honor. First of all, I didn't go into this material.
Well, backhanded what you did, Mr. You asked about how she'd read her testimony, and you asked questions about whether or not she was going to get paid, so I think it's appropriate redress.
Did you tell me that you had changed your mind and that you were willing
Your
to?
Honor, I'm going to object. If we're going to ask her to testify, she's already asked her to say, maybe we can ask her.
Mr. Early, your objection is that she's leaving, is that correct?
Yes.
Sustained.
She had just made the statement, or it's just foundational, but what did you indicated that you had changed your mind and that you were willing to testify, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yeah.
And why was that? Were the prosecution giving you any deals, somebody giving you something to do that?
No, just, I just started having guilt feelings. Nobody promised me anything. I had pending cases. I went and did my time in jail. I'd signed my plea bargain way before any of this took place. So I volunteered on my own.
Did you say anything about do with the attitude of the defendants about how she had killed Dan and Linda?
No, I don't think so, no, just because they were dead, I guess, and maybe because they were murdered, that's why I had guilt feelings.
You felt it was important to tell the
Your Honor,
truth?
objection is leading.
Sustained. Sorry, you're actually sustained on that ground also.
When the investigator first called you, Mr. Green, and you said that you kind of jokingly asked him if you were going to get paid, what did you tell him?
He said, no, of course not.
Okay. And when you indicated to Mr. Early that you thought that, well, he asked you if you thought Elizabeth Broderick was stupid, what were you referring to?
Because of what she had did, and well, I was referring to that, what I meant was that she was running her mouth to everybody and talking about her case. That's what I meant by me saying she was stupid, because she was telling everybody everything, all her business, just announcing it to everybody.
And you didn't think that was very smart?
No, I didn't.
Was there any question in your mind about her feelings towards Dan and Linda? Whether or not she liked them, hated them?
Well, about Daniel, I don't know, because she talks about him like he's still here, but Linda, I would say she clearly hated her,
And you indicated that she sometimes talks like, or talked to you like Daniel was still alive. She did acknowledge that he was dead to you, though. Is that correct?
What do you mean?
Do you recall her talking about the funeral?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And did she acknowledge to you in that conversation that she knew Dan Broderick?
Oh, yeah, she was mad because he got buried with full Catholic rites and whatnot, yeah.
And what was she angry about?
She was angry because,
Your Honor, I'm just, it's way beyond the scope now.
Sustained.
No, he asked questions about,
Didn't ask anything about the funeral.
but he asked about her statements about talking about him as though he was still alive. And this is a conversation where she knew he was not.
Well, you've already established that she knew he was not. That's established.
I can't have her describe the conversation?
No.
And you did indicate that Elizabeth Broderick called Linda numerous derogatory names, correct?
yes, she did.
Including,
Your Honor, just objection. This is leading one. She just asked what name she called instead of giving the answers.
Sustained.
already testified.
She testified to 3. I remember what they are. Just ask whether there are any additional ones. If that's what you want to know.
Have no further.
Sure.
Was it a tape transcript? Was it something you read or heard this morning?
I read it.
Okay, Your Honor, before I'm finished with my cross-examination, I'd like to see whatever she read.
So it's Mr. Green's report.
You read the transcript. It's been turned over to the defense.
No, I've never gotten any transcript. Requested it. I can get it. I can.
Was set out for discussion.
Do you have a copy of it? You can show us.
Sure do. Yeah, for the record, this is a transcript of a tape recorder was turned over to the defense 2 years ago.
Sterling, we take our recess now, and you're going to review that over the recess?
Yeah, I'm not done with that. Any questions?
All right. Just, we should make a record of this. It appears to be about a half a dozen pages from here, but why don't we put on the record how many pages that is? 4. All right. Include sheet, right? Total. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our afternoon recess. This time we'll be in recess at California versus Betty Broderick. Court finds all members.
Sorry if I am buffering again. My gosh, it just StreamYard keeps doing stuff that I don't know how it's doing because I have turned everything extra off on it. And it shouldn't even be able to access what it seems to be trying to access. So I don't know, but I apologize. Also, you know what a weird witness for them to get all kind of feisty with each other over. After everyone we've heard from so far, this one? It's like, I don't know why, Flashman. I really don't. It's driving me crazy. No, it's StreamYard. Like, it's not you. It's something going on with StreamYard, and it's been super duper annoying. I'm glad it's not just me. Oh, Grandma, you have my sympathy because this is so dumb. Thanks, little one. I have not done that. We can try. You've heard that before. It's not you, it's me. Well, it is me. It isn't you. I will continue to try not to go crazy. I don't know. Can I switch to that incognito? I got the little button up there. I'll maybe try that when I'm not streaming. All right, but anyway, all right. I don't know if you guys were reading the closed captionings when the state said no more questions the first time. And it's the judge said, all right, cross-examination. It said crushed salmon. I don't know why I thought it was funny. I immediately thought of Flashman because it was food. But these closed captionings, I tell you, glad we have them. Wish they were accurate. All right, Jenny. I don't know. I will try that. I don't know why StreamYard don't make things hard because there's nothing happening. It's not like we're getting any updates. I mean, if one's coming, crushed salmon is good just the same. See, Flashman? I knew. I think the missing persons are gone for the rest of the trial. Maybe they might be back. I saw kind of a thumbnail of a witness that might need them, but I'm not sure. But I think they're probably gone forever, never to return. Sorry, little one. Alrighty, let's do this and get back. So I don't know if you guys saw my message at the bottom of the screen. What's up, Puddletown, you little rebel? Good to see you. Don't get in trouble. When we watched lead that was on the stand on Thursday. Remember, there was a big thing about not being shown. Lee didn't want to have the camera like close up on her. It's making her nervous. So the camera stayed back. And then this witness, she didn't want the camera on her at all. She just wanted her audio shown. I don't know how this is going to progress on through, but that's why we're not seeing her. I forgot about that until I realized we weren't seeing her. The mannequins eloped. They are gone forever. All right, I'm going to put play, and now I'm going to look at Shani's chats here. See if I can fix things. She didn't want to be a snitch. Too late.
With the jury panel present and all counsel are present, Ms. Broderick is present. Ms. Peralta is in the hall.
I believe counsel indicated he no.
Yeah, I have no further questions. But I haven't met my fix my share, so I don't fool myself every time it's falling apart.
No comment that you have a minute.
My wheels have come up.
While counsel's fixing his chair, is Ms. Peralta to be excused?
I'm sorry.
Can Ms. Peralta be excused?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, she's excused.
I'll go on the diet.
Sure.
Sure.
That's my chair, don't break
Or make an attempt to report it. All right, call the next witness.
Thank you. People call Patty Monahan.
You do solemnly swear the testimony about to give and the matter not before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. And could you please have a seat in the witness stand?
Afternoon.
Matt, could you please state your full name for the record and spell your last name? Patricia Monahan, Monahan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Monahan. Can you tell us, do you know the defendant in this case, Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you know her?
I know Betty from the last year that Dan was in law school, and he interviewed with the law firm that my husband was associated with.
Was that the law firm of Gray, Carey, Ames, and Fry?
Yes, it was.
And so that was when you first met Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, that's
and
right.
You met Dan Broderick at the same time?
Well, yes, I met Betty first. I was Betty during the day, and then I met Dan that evening.
Do you remember approximately what year that was?
No, I don't.
Was it a while ago?
It was quite a while ago.
Okay. Back in the 70s?
Yes.
And did you at some point become a friend of the defendant? Can you describe your relationship just
Yes.
briefly?
Betty and I did things with our husbands and with other people on a social basis regularly.
And was that while she was living at the Coral Reef House in La Jolla?
Yes, and prior to that, we had been friends from the very beginning.
Okay. And was your husband, is it David Monahan?
Yes, that's
He's
right.
your ex-husband? is that
Yes.
correct? Was he good friends with Dan Broderick?
Yes, very good friends.
Did there come a time when you and your husband divorced? Is that correct?
Yes.
And did there come a time when you were aware of the fact that the defendant separated from Dan Broderick?
Yes, I talked to Betty shortly before they separated.
And after their separation, did you become closer friends?
Yes, we did.
Prior to separation, you just sort of did things together as couples and families. Is that fair to say?
Well, before my divorce, we did a lot of things together. We took trips together and we had a lot of good times together. But after my divorce, we didn't see each other for a few years.
And then when was it that you started becoming closer friends with her just as a person? Approximately what year? Do you recall?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It was after she and Dan had separated.
Okay. And what house was she living in at the time?
She was living Calle de Cielo.
Okay. I want to first direct your attention to the morning of November the 5th, 1989. Do you remember that morning?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember receiving a phone call early that morning?
Yes, I do.
Approximately what time was it when you received the call?
Approximately 8 in the morning.
And who was the call from?
It was from Betty.
Do you recall what the first words were that she said to you when you picked up the phone?
Yes. She said, I shot Dan. I finally did it.
What were you doing when you received the phone call?
I was asleep.
So the phone call had basically awakened you?
Yes.
And what happened after she said, I shot Dan, I finally did it?
I believe the first thing I said was, "Are you sure?" And she said, "No."
Did she tell you where she was calling from?
No, she didn't.
Did she continue to say anything else that you recall?
Yes, I asked her if she had shot Linda, and she said she didn't know, that it was dark. And at that point, I think in the beginning I didn't want to believe it. And eventually I got very concerned that what she was saying was true.
Was there, do you have some problem recalling everything that was said in that conversation?
Yes, yes.
And do you recall that you did continue to talk to her for a period of time, but you just don't know for sure what all was said then?
I don't recall everything that was said. I just know that at some point I got very upset. I was nervous and upset. And for one thing, I wanted to check a phone call that had come in previously.
Okay. Now, when you say you were getting nervous and upset, what was it that was causing you to get nervous and upset?
The things she was telling me, she was getting very graphic about what had happened.
And when you say that you wanted to check a phone call that had come in, what are you talking about?
About 10 minutes before Betty called, there had been a call, and I didn't pick it up because it was early on Sunday morning, and I just thought it was the wrong number. And at the time I was talking to Betty and starting to get very upset over the conversation, I thought perhaps I'd better go down and pick up the message if there was one. And I think I was beginning to think that possibly the first phone call had something to do with her call.
How would you describe how she sounded when she was talking to you in that phone call?
I didn't perceive her to be, I didn't think she was extremely upset.
Did she sound normal to you?
At the time, yes.
Do you recall at all her saying anything about having pulled the phone out of the wall?
Yes, I do remember that.
Do you recall what she said?
I believe after I asked her if she had shot Linda, and she said, I don't know, it was dark, and she said, I shot 5 times and I pulled the phone out of the wall. Those are 2 things I do remember.
What do you recall about how long it was that you had this conversation before you got off the phone?
It was very brief. It was probably 5 minutes at the most.
And then what did you do when you got off the phone?
I immediately walked into the room where Jerry Thatcher was.
And who's Jerry Thatcher?
Jerry Thatcher is my boyfriend.
And what did you do?
I remember being extremely upset because I think at that point that I got off the phone with Betty, I was believing that something terrible had happened. And I walked into the room and my voice was shaking. And I said, Betty's really flipped out this time. And Jerry said, what happened? And I said, she said she shot Dan.
Do you recall saying some other things to Jerry that at this point, again, you don't really remember the specifics?
That's correct.
Were you, from that point on, were you fairly upset for the rest of the day?
Yes, after I talked to Jerry.
No objection. Non-responsive.
That's sustained and non-responsive. Rephrase it.
What did you do after you talked to Jerry?
I went downstairs and there was a message on my machine and I played it back and it was from Gail Forbes. And I could tell by her voice that something terrible had happened. And the message, I can't remember the words exactly, but she just said that it was extremely important that I get back with her as soon as possible.
Did you do that?
I did.
And did you find out that Dan and Linda were in fact dead?
No, not on the first phone call. I didn't. The first phone call, she just told me that Brian and Brad were on their way over to Dan's house. And I really didn't get much information beyond that.
Do you recall when it was that you found out that they were in fact dead?
It was shortly after that. I was very upset, and I started saying to myself and to Jerry, oh my God, I hope he's all right, or I've got to know what's going on. And Jerry at that point said, well, call Gail back. Call her back and ask her. And
Objection, it's on here, Sam.
Sustained.
Did you then call Gail back?
I called Gail back, and I said, Gail, please tell me.
No objections, non-responsive to answer the question.
Just what you asked you another question, Ms. Monahan. Go ahead.
Did you ultimately find out from Gail that Dan and Linda were dead?
No, not from Gail. I found out from a police officer.
Okay. Dan Broderick, was he someone that you cared about?
Yes.
Do you know why the defendant called you that morning? Did she say anything about why she called you?
No, but I would assume it's because Gail.
Counter objection. Officer speculation.
Sustain. Yes, you can stand.
Anyway, she never indicated to you why she had called. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or did she ask you to do anything?
No.
Prior to November 5th, 1989, had you spent a fair amount of time with Elizabeth Broderick the year, 2 years before that?
Yes.
Did she ever express her feelings to you about Dan and Linda Broderick?
Yes. On numerous occasions.
And what were those feelings that she expressed?
Well, she hated Dan and Linda.
Was there any question about that?
No.
After the divorce judgment became final in January of 1989, do you remember what her attitude was about that?
She was very unhappy about the settlement.
Was she angry about it?
Yes.
What during that period of time, say the year of 1989, what appeared to be her primary complaint?
Money.
Can you elaborate on that?
I believe Betty felt that.
And Ms. Monahan, without speculating about what people felt, can you describe what she would say, for example?
Well, she felt that Dan's lifestyle was far superior to hers, that she had nothing compared to what Dan had financially, and that basically he was what she made him.
Did she talk about the fact that she didn't have enough money?
Yes.
Did she ever claim to be broke, for example?
Yes.
Did she appear to you to have money?
Yes.
Did she ever describe things to you, for example, that she had bought?
Well, we shopped together, and I knew she bought basically what she wanted.
Did there ever appear to be any limitations on what she could buy?
No.
Did you ever talk with her about that fact, that it seemed like she had a lot of money and a lot of things to do?
I think I spoke to her mostly about saving a little bit more, putting some back and being a little more careful with her money.
Did her conversations during this period of time about Dan and Linda, were they common conversations, her complaints about Dan and Linda? Was this something that she talked about often?
Yes.
Okay. And could you disagree with her about things, or how would she talk about it?
Well, her anger was steadily getting more aggressive, and I think it concerned me because at one point I felt that it should be getting less, and it seemed to be the anger just seemed to be growing.
Did you ever talk to her about that? About moving on and putting the anger aside?
Yes, I was really hopeful that Betty was going to get into something that she was really interested in, just be happier.
Can you describe Elizabeth Broderick's her abilities, her intelligence?
I can honestly say Betty is one of the brightest, wittiest, fun people that I've had pleasure spending time with. When she was in an up mood, she was wonderful to be spending time with.
Did you know her boyfriend, Brad Wright?
Yes, I did.
Were you aware that they had a relationship?
I believe they had a platonic relationship, yes.
Okay, what makes you think that?
Because Betty told me that.
Did she ever admit to you that she had an intimate relationship with him?
No.
How did she describe Brad Wright to you?
Counter objection. Earlier reference.
Did the defendant ever admit to you going into Dan and Linda Broderick's home in violation of the restraining order?
Yes, she did.
What did she say she had done to you?
Pardon me?
What did she say she had done?
Well, at one time, she had gotten a letter that Linda had written, I believe, to Dan's parents.
She told you about that?
Yes, she did.
Did she tell you about where she had found it or how she had taken it?
I believe she had found it in Dan's desk.
And what was her attitude about that, about going into the house and taking something?
Well, I believe I had told her that she was taking a chance, that she shouldn't do it because, Dan was going to be furious and there would be repercussions.
And what was her response, if you recall?
She was going to do it, and nothing I said was going to change that.
How about, did she talk to you about taking the wedding list?
Yes, she did.
What did she say about that?
I think she had dropped one of the children off, and she was in the house, and she said she was leaving. She saw an envelope by the front door, and she picked it up and looked inside, and it was the wedding list, and so she took it.
Did she actually show the list to you?
Yes, she did.
And what was her demeanor like when she did that?
Well, I believe she was angry about names on the list, people that were going to the wedding, or she speculated that they would be going to the wedding if they were invited.
Did you say anything to her about taking the list back?
Yes, I advised her to take it back, and
And what was her response?
no, she wasn't planning on doing that.
Do you recall her ever talking to you about having been in jail?
Yes,
What was her attitude about that? How did she describe that or explain it?
well, I kind of have to chuckle because she laughed and she said, "They've got me stringing beads."
And she was referring to being in custody?
Yes,
Was she laughing about it?
yes.
Did she ever tell you how it was that Dan Broderick got custody of the children in the first place?
No, I don't think I have the information on that.
Did she never made any statements to you about giving the kids to Dan?
I do know that at the time of their separation, she took the children over to Dan because she said she wasn't going to be a single mother raising 4 children.
Did she ever complain to you about the visitation center,
Yes.
visitation with her children? What was her complaint?
Her complaint was that Dan wouldn't let her have the children. She would want them for Halloween or for Thanksgiving, and her complaint was that Dan didn't want to let her have them for holidays.
Did she have any complaints once she did have the children?
Yes, I believe the main complaint was that Dan would send them to her when she had other plans, and she always felt that Dan was using her as a babysitter.
Did she complain about being used as a babysitter when she had the children?
I don't know if I would say that. I just know that there were many times when she would say that he would dump the kids on her front porch when she had other plans, and she didn't like to be used as a babysitter.
Did you ever see Elizabeth Broderick interacting with her daughter Kim?
Yes, on many occasions.
Did you ever see her get angry at Kim?
Yes, I did.
Did it ever have anything to do with Kim's feelings for her father or Linda?
Yes.
Can you describe that?
Betty would be very angry if Kim had been in a situation where she was enjoying her time with her father and Linda.
Now, when you say she'd be very angry, what would she do?
Well, on at least 2 occasions, she called Kim a bitch.
Did you ever talk to her about that or use of language in front of the children?
Not really, no.
Was there a reason that you didn't?
Yes, there was.
What was that?
A lot of times Betty had anger, and I felt sometimes it was just best to let her get it out and get it over with, and then we would go on with whatever it was we had planned to do.
Do you recall when the last time was that you saw her before November the 5th?
Yes, it was 2 Thursdays before.
What did you do?
I met Betty at her house, and Kim was there, and we were going to go to Nordstrom's and go shopping.
Did you actually go shopping with Kim and her mother?
Yes, we did.
And were there any complaints about that by the defendant afterwards?
Well, I just remember getting in, when we were in the store, we were having a good time, and she asked Kim to try on some boots, and I think she commented on one dress that it would really look cute on her, and I believe Kim bought a pair of boots that night, or a pair of shoes. And when we got back into the car, Betty's complaint was, every time I go out with you, you cost me money.
Did the defendant ever tell you anything about having or buying a gun?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She told me that she bought a gun and that she was taking target practice.
Do you recall when it was that she told you that?
I can't give a date.
Did she tell you why she bought the gun? Did she say anything
No,
about
she
that?
didn't.
Did you do anything with that information?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
I called Gail Forbes,
Why did
and I told her I was concerned, and she said yes, that she knew about it too, and that Dan would know.
I have no further questions.
Cross-examine.
Ms. Monahan, you testified last year, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And when you testified, isn't it true that your feeling is that Elizabeth Broderick always, when you were around her, would talk about nothing but how much she hated Dan? That's all she would ever talk about.
No, I don't believe I said that.
Did you talk about the fact that all she ever talked about was money and how she felt that she was getting ripped off? That she
No.
would constantly talk about that.
No.
Okay. You indicated that your feelings about Mr. Broderick. Did you ever use the term gray Carrie sickness? You ever heard that?
No.
That's not a term you would use?
No.
You don't know why Elizabeth Broderick would attribute that term to you
No, I
12,
never said
15
that.
years ago?
I never said that, no.
Were you ever upset about the way her husband and your husband used to gallivant around together? That was never discussed with Elizabeth Broderick?
Oh, it probably was, yes.
And their drinking problems, they were discussed, weren't they?
I don't believe I ever said they had a drinking problem, but we did discuss the fact that they like to go out together a lot.
And they like to drink. Did they go out to drink? They went to bars, didn't they?
Yes,
And that was a lot.
yes.
Okay? Enough that it was interfering with your family, and she thought it was interfering with her family, wasn't it?
Well, in the beginning, I don't believe she and I had this discussion.
You believed that, didn't you?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant. Yeah, that's fine.
Sustained.
Well, Your Honor, goes to scope as to her feelings about Mr. Broderick. If this is her feelings, I'm going to.
Well, if you want to ask her that, go ahead, but she just answered the last question, no.
Was it your feelings that there were problems with the amount of time that your husband, Mr. Broderick, were spending together rather than with their family?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She hasn't testified about this. Her personal problems about her family argument. She said she happened to like Dan Broderick.
Sustained as to her, how she felt about Mr. Monahan and his family, but you can answer as you tested the feeling as to Mr. Broderick and his family.
Did you have a feeling that Mr. Broderick was out with somebody when he was married, and you thought that he should be home with his family?
No.
You indicated that she talked to you about money on various occasions. Is that correct?
Yeah, she was concerned about what her fair settlement was going to be.
Then he was somebody who in public would try to cover up that she was upset, wouldn't she? Not let people know that.
Yes.
Objection calls for speculation.
Oh, really interesting stand. That's an opinion to lay witness and draw.
And before the breakup with Daniel Broderick, how would you describe her as a mother?
She was a wonderful mother.
And she indicated to you that at times that she felt that she had settled the case. She didn't settle the case with Dan before she had full custody of the children. That would use that as a weapon. I mean, that's what she would say, didn't she?
No, she never said that to me.
Okay. Did during the 4 years you knew her, she was going to court an awful lot, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
She tried to get you to go with her, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Did you ever go with her?
No.
Okay. You indicated that when she called you that morning, you remember her saying that she shot Dan, and then when you asked her about it, she said, "I'm not sure." Remember that?
Her initial words to me were, "I shot Dan."
And then you asked her about it.
I said, "Did you hit him?" And she said, "I don't know."
Okay. And these are things that you're I mean, these are clear in your mind, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, you called, you had attributed a word to her, and then when you thought about it, you called up and corrected
Yes.
some of the language that she used. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you had a clear recollection of what she said to you on the phone call. At least the things that you remember is very vivid.
Her initial comments, yes.
The and you didn't believe it was serious until you talked to Gail Forbes. Isn't that right?
No, I believe at the time that she was getting very graphic with me, I started to believe it was true.
Do you remember talking to a district attorney investigator?
Yes, I do.
And you remember telling the investigator that at the time that you received a phone call from Betty, you didn't think she was serious until you got to Gail Forbes on the phone?
No, I don't think that's exactly. I began to believe she was telling me the truth. I think I wasn't convinced that it had happened until I went downstairs and picked up the message from Gail.
So it's the interview of assumptions. Remember, I have an interview from investigator dated, Mr. Green dated December 6, 1989, the witness to review, starting about halfway through the paragraph as she was.
Mhm.
Start reading there
Right.
and read the rest of the paragraph. Did you read that paragraph?
Yes, I did.
By the way, when an investigator from Mrs. Broderick came to talk to you, you didn't want to talk to her, is that correct?
That's true.
When you woke up, how would you describe your condition?
I was very sleepy.
The did you have an opportunity to read that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was it your feeling at the time that it was after the call from Ms. Forbes that you believed that Elizabeth Broderick was serious?
No, prior to that, I just wasn't. I wasn't positive, but I was beginning to believe that something terrible had happened.
So this is not a correct statement of yours, that after hearing Forbes' message, Patty Monahan knew that Broderick, Elizabeth, had been serious about shooting her former husband. That would not be a correct statement.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said.
And you don't have any memory of when Elizabeth Broderick said that she had a gun?
No, but it was probably 4 years ago, or prior to the shooting.
Okay, so it was about 3 or 4 years prior to the shooting, and
Yes.
you're indicating that you heard that from Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and had you heard that rumor from anyone else?
No,
The was Elizabeth ever upset that was she ever upset about not having the children?
yes,
Was she ever upset that she didn't get custody of them? That she didn't have primary custody of them?
yes,
The now the would you see her when she went to after she came back from court?
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick? And how would you describe her? Was she happy, upset?
upset.
Okay. And when you mean upset, what do you mean?
Well, every time she went to court, there were upsetting things that happened, And I don't know, other than what she told me, what went on in court.
I mean, did she appear to be upset, like crying, distraught?
No, just upset.
Okay. And so what do you mean by upset?
Well, just angry,
Yeah. So it was just anger that you saw.
mostly, yes.
And did you ever see her crying, just upset, where she would just go, not want anyone around and just cry?
I've never seen Betty cry.
The, did she indicate to you when she was talking about the money and the anger that, that money was being diverted? Did you believe money was being diverted from to Larry, Dana's brother?
Yes, she did.
And when she talked about respective lifestyles, she talked about the fact that in court, how much money she got from the estate depended on what her standard of living was, didn't she?
I believe Betty felt that she had to keep her expenses at a certain level because that would mean more money for her in the settlement.
She never told you that a lawyer had told her that?
No,
Did she discuss with you about their home being sold or moving before the separation?
before the separation?
Yes, before her separation.
No, I believe they were living in a rental house because the house on Coral Reef had a cracked slab and they were having it repaired.
Now, was she saying that she had to keep up her lifestyle or she had to exaggerate it? What was she telling you?
Well, I believe she was saying that the more money she spent, the better her settlement would be.
Well, she was telling you then that she had to spend more money than she's ever spent before?
I don't know what she spent before. There were several years that I didn't see Betty, so I couldn't compare. I don't know.
And she told you a lot of things that she did. Is that correct? She wouldn't hide the fact that she had done things. Had she?
Objection, Your Honor, thank you.
Well, for instance, burning the clothes. She told you about burning Dan's clothes.
Yes, she did.
She didn't hide that from you.
No.
Did she tell you about the court files being missing?
No, she didn't.
Did she tell you about Mr. Broderick, some of his driving files being missing?
Yes, she did.
About his driving under the influence files being missing?
She did.
She talked to him about Dan coming into the back of the courtroom while she had come into the front?
Yes.
She talked to you about the courtroom being sealed?
I'm not sure on that.
So you never remember hearing anything about her complaining about a sealed courtroom?
No, I don't.
The, do you know, did she talk to you about her court case at all? About what she was doing at the time of the court case?
I know about some things, yes.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench on the matter?
Sure.
You indicated that you had gone shopping for her daughter Kim 2 weeks before the homicide,
Yes.
and it appeared that they were, that Elizabeth was not being very nice to Kim.
Yes.
And that seemed to be to you fairly striking. I mean, it was obvious that the two of them were battling.
No, they weren't battling.
Well, it appeared that Betty was being at least nasty to her.
Betty was frustrated.
Okay, and she was taking her frustration out on Kim,
Yes.
and that appeared to be pretty obvious to you.
Yes.
And Kim was being nice back to her.
Yes, I think so.
I have just one.
Certainly.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Just briefly, Your Honor, you never knew whether any of the claims that Elizabeth Broderick were making were true or not, correct?
Concerning
Concerning the divorce, concerning whether Dan was diverting money, she would just say these things, correct?
yes, she had concerns about things that we would talk about.
And she talked about those concerns with a lot of people.
Yes.
She was never shy about sharing those with anybody, is that correct?
No.
And you have felt in the past that she did distort and exaggerate things, correct?
Yes, I did.
You indicated that she talked about keeping her expenses up and spending money in order to get more money from the settlement, right?
Yes,
Did she tell you about buying a $40,000 fur coat, for example?
yes, she did.
And did you talk at all about whether or not that was extravagant at the time?
I believe I asked, I wondered how she had the money to buy it, and she said she put it on a charge card.
Was it, when you say you wondered how she had the money to buy it, did that have to do with the fact that she was telling you that she didn't have any money?
Yes,
And at the same time, she went out and bought a $40,000 fur coat?
yes.
With respect to Coral Reef, did she ever express her feelings about Coral Reef and whether she wanted to live at that house?
I believe she and Dan had been looking for another house for quite some time. I believe she wanted to move.
And when she would come back from court, you indicated that she would often be angry. Again, you didn't know what was going on in court. Is that
No, other than what Betty told me, I didn't know anything about it.
And did it appear to you that she was always angry every time she came back from court?
Yes,
She never, as far as she was concerned, got her way or got what she wanted.
no, just the opposite. I think she felt that nothing ever went the way she wanted it to.
And you indicated that she had at one time asked you to go to court with her.
Yes,
So it was your understanding at the time, obviously, the courtroom wasn't sealed or closed, if you could go in there with her, right?
Your Honor, I have an objection.
Argumentative sustained.
But she was inviting you to come with her to court to a hearing.
yes.
And when she talked to you about burning the clothes, she told you about burning Dan's clothes,
Yes,
right?
she did.
And how did she describe it? What was her attitude about it?
Well, this was a long time ago. I just remember her telling me that she threw all his clothes off the balcony and set fire to him.
Was, you didn't believe her at the time, did you?
No, I didn't.
And when was it that you ultimately believed that she had done that?
She told somebody else in my presence. And I thought, well, if she's telling other people, it must be true.
You don't particularly like talking about these events or what happened on November 5th at all, correct?
That's correct.
And you've been hesitant about talking to any investigators about it?
That's right.
I have no further questions.
Three cross.
Does it mean if the investigator has a badge, it makes it easier?
Objection, Your Honor.
Argumentative sustained.
Well, you've had more than one interview with the district attorney, haven't you? Haven't you?
Yes.
And you would expect that if you had a friend and they got in trouble, at least somebody would talk to their side, wouldn't you?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained.
But you said that you just don't like to talk about these things. That's why you haven't talked to interviewers. Is that your testimony?
I don't understand what you mean.
You've talked to the district attorney on more than one occasion, have you not?
Yes.
You haven't been shy about it and told him you won't talk to him, have you?
No.
Okay. You haven't told him there's any problems, have you?
Any problems?
With you talking to him?
It's not something I'm looking forward to.
And you talked to him before you testified last time and before you testified this time, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you had no idea as to Mr. Broderick's investments either, did you?
No, none at all.
And so when you were talking about wondering about her anger, you didn't know whether Mr. Broderick was earning $140,000 or $120,000 a month, did you, at the time?
No.
Okay. And so you didn't know what what was going on the other side of the coin. You only knew what you saw from her. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You didn't see Mrs. Broderick buying trips to Greece for 6-8 people, did you?
Mrs. Broderick?
Yes. Paying the way for everybody to go to Greece?
No.
Okay. You didn't see her buying tables for judges and other people at functions,
No.
did you? I have no further questions.
As well, anything further?
In fact, Elizabeth Broderick told you that Dan Broderick was making $3 million a year, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And that wasn't true, was it? But you didn't know, did you?
I didn't know.
You didn't know at the time that was maybe triple what he might have been making.
I had no way of knowing.
And she did take trips, though, over the years, didn't she, herself?
Yes,
You knew about her trips to Tahiti,
yes,
and a trip to Acapulco,
yes,
and a couple of trips to Hawaii,
yes,
and going skiing with her kids.
yes,
She took her kids skiing, didn't she?
yes.
Did she ever complain about not being able to go somewhere because she didn't have enough money?
No.
Nothing for her.
Anything further, Mr. Early?
Okay.
What is this gives?
Okay.
All right.
Subject to recall, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much. Just want to end.
I feel like these attorneys on this day were like fighting like siblings. Gabby, with your sibling effect about squeaky chairs. You're not touching me. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. All the whole time they're touching each other. Yes, Annabelle, that is a steno machine in front of the woman sitting there with her Sally Jesse Raphael glasses. Although they were red before this witness, I thought, but I guess he probably dismissed. Did he dismiss him? I don't know. Judge says break, and I know we're not really getting one. All I could think about was this lady's hair. I was a member of the Big Hair Club, so when I say this, I mean it with all due respect. I swear she just lifted that whole thing off and set it on her beside her bed on the nightstand every night. Not a wig. She just put it back on in the morning. Because that's the hold that Big Hair Hairspray had, and you could do that. Yeah, no, I just thought they were red, last witness. So I was like, wait, those aren't red. Yes. I was going to get some of those, but I didn't because the lens in my left eye I pretty much have like no vision out of my left eye. So it's like it's not bottle, like a bottle cap, bottle, whatever. You know what I mean? It's not like that, but it's thick enough where I couldn't do the sunglasses, like the magnet, not clip-ons, just for anybody. I'm not doing clip-on sunglasses. I'm old, but they had magnetic ones, and I was like, I can't do those. She scraped some roadkill to get that hair. And then Ronnie comes in. Betty was just crazy. She was crazy, I tell you. That's why we have bonnets. That's yes, bottle rocket. They're not as thick as a bottle rocket either. Yes, they do have the same hair. The court reporter and that lady, they both just set it off. Oh, sorry, Sharon. I have them sped up just a little bit. And not that much though, but sorry. Yeah, no, I'm not getting deep again. All right, next witness, please. I'm not doing bad on time. Not bad at all. But I don't know about you guys. I think it'd be hard. But I think I could manage surviving on $140,000 a month. I'd like to try it just like for 3 months, 4 months, maybe. You know, just give me a little test run. See if I can do it. I think I can. We'll also test the theory if it buys me happiness or not. Maybe. I'm not sure, Ronnie. Shani, you are not. I'm so old, I can tell they have two different hairdos. AJ, I could, what you'd say, 100 grand? I could live on 100 grand for a year, bet. We could try. You get your 100 grand, I get mine. Not a candy bar. Not a candy bar. But you get yours, I get mine, and we'll see if we both make it to the end. With 100 grand, if we live, we don't have to have 100 grand at the end. We just have to be able to survive on it and not go into debt. Can we do it? Maybe. I don't know how old you are, Shani, so I'm just going to say you're not that old. Age is just a number. It's a good down payment. Yeah, F that candy bar. Give me the loot. That's right. Hello, Nutawau. When my husband and I were dating, My now brother-in-law said, thank God he has a girlfriend. She'll make him get real prescription sunglasses instead of the old people kind he uses. I have not used those. Not even, I don't have to get my eyes dilated anymore because my eye doctor has a machine that can do it without dilating my eyes, which is great. But even when I would get my eyes dilated, it's like, I'll wear my own sunglasses. He still has the old people kind. It's like a Dateline narrator. And he still has the old people kind. What does it mean? I know. It means I should hit play. Let's do it.
Another one. People call Jerry Thatcher. Jerry Thatcher.
You promise what it's about the I'll be a church to help you, and nothing but the truth will help you guys.
I do.
So could you please let us know what you stand?
That's Mr. Patrick.
And sir, could you please say your full name for the record and spell your last name?
Jerry D. Thatcher, Thatcher.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Thatcher.
Yeah.
You know the lady that just left the courtroom, Patty Monahan?
Yes, I do.
How was it that you know her?
Well, Petty and I have been dating steadily for about 2.5 years, and I've known her on a casual basis for about 10 years.
Calling your attention, Sue, back to the early morning of November 5th, 1989. Were you at Patty Monahan's house when she received a phone call?
Yes, I was.
Did she take the call in your presence or somewhere else?
No, she took the call down the hall. I was in the bedroom. She walked down the hall to take the call.
And for approximately how long was she on the phone?
It was a relatively short conversation. I'd say 3 to 5 minutes.
Were you able to hear at least her end of the conversation?
I did not hear what she said. I could hear her talking.
After the conversation ceased, at least what you could hear, did she come back to where you were?
Yeah, she walked back into the bedroom.
How long did it take her to do that?
Probably 5 seconds, just 2 rooms away.
And when she got back to your presence, what was her demeanor at that point?
Well, she was upset, and she said, Betty's really flipped out this time. She says she shot Dan.
What did you say to that, if anything?
I said, well, what do you mean? You know, what'd she say?
Did she respond to that?
Yes, she did. I mean, I asked her what she said, and
Maybe first venture on someone?
Certainly. While she's walking back over here, ladies and gentlemen, I should explain the reason for the cord is this new software she has that basically instantaneously transcribes what she's taking down off the paper. That's the reason for that umbilical cord that we pull over.
Do you remember where we were, Mr. Thatcher?
yes, I did.
What, if anything, did Ms. Monahan say in response to your question?
She says that Betty said, I shot the fucker. I shot 5 times. He was gurgling in his own blood. It's true, you do shit in your pants.
And did Ms. Monahan make it clear who was supposedly defecating in their pants?
She did not.
Besides being, I guess, upset, was she doing anything else that led you to believe she was upset at that time?
Well, her voice was shaking, and she was noticeably very upset.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examine.
And you indicated was it clear as to both statements or one statement who they were talking about?
Objection.
I'm sorry. You said that there was 2 statements, gurgling in the blood and shitting in the pants. Were you clear on either one of those? Objection is what?
Yes. You understand the question?
Yes, I understand. It was that Dan was gurgling in his own blood. That's the way I understood it. And the shit in your pants part of it was
Happening.
a couple things, I guess. I did not really have a specific opinion about that.
Did you make any notes of the conversation?
I did not.
And did you talk to this attorney on August 2nd of 90 about the statements?
I did.
Okay, you didn't give him any handwritten notes then at that time?
No handwritten notes.
I have nothing further.
Redirect.
None, Your Honor.
Witness be excused.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thatcher.
Thank you.
Shortest witness ever. Run.
Your Honor, we're at a witness at this point.
Well, that's pretty close. But you're fortunate we had that delay this morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our afternoon recess at this time. Please remember the admonition not to discuss the case among yourselves and let anyone else discuss it with you, nor form any opinions until it's finally submitted to you. And just another reminder, please don't read or listen to or watch any accounts of this trial. Have a nice evening.
And ma'am, would you please state your full name for the record and spell your last name?
Sylvia Cavins, Cavins.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Cavins.
Morning.
Do you know the defendant in this action, Elizabeth Broderick?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you know her?
When I was employed by Dan Broderick, she was a mother of the children that I was taking care of.
Can you tell us what was your employment for Mr. Broderick?
Well, I would come in about 12:30. I would see if the house was in order. I would be sure to be there when the boys were home from school, and I would take them to any appointments they had to go to. Generally run the household.
So you were a housekeeper and you took care of the children for a period of time, is that correct?
Yes.
When did you start working for Mr. Broderick?
In December of '87.
And did you work for him continually then until his death?
Yes, I did.
So that was almost 2-year period of time, is that
Yes.
correct? So you were the last housekeeper babysitter that he
Yes.
employed. Are you related to Linda David, who has previously testified?
Yes.
Who is she?
My daughter.
And did you work for Mr. Broderick right after Linda David quit?
Yes, I took over immediately.
Did Linda continue to sometimes babysit for the kids when you weren't available?
Yes, sometimes on weekends when Dan was going someplace, she took over.
What were your hours?
I would usually be there Monday through Friday from around 12 o'clock to 7:30 or 8.
And that was a full-time position?
Yes.
While you worked there for this 2-year period of time, did you get to know Dan and Linda Broderick and the 4 Broderick children?
Oh, yes, very well.
Were you there during the dinner hour, for example?
Yes, I served dinner, and I was there after dinner. I cleaned up, and I was there to answer all their questions at dinner, which came up a lot.
Did you have a fair amount of interaction with the family and with the kids?
Yes, I did. Sometimes I felt like their second mother.
How would you describe Kim, for example? What kind of girl was she?
Kim was a very lovely girl. Very, just the kind of daughter I think everybody would like to have.
How would you describe her relationship with her father?
It seemed very good,
Did they always get along, or did they occasionally argue?
just like every father-daughter relationship. You know, they had their ups and downs, but mainly it was ups.
And how would you describe Lee?
Lee she had problems. I got along with Lee fine, but she did have a lot of problems.
Did she have some problems with her father?
Well, yes, mainly because Dan didn't approve of her lifestyle. Lee dropped out of school. That was absolutely a no-no. Lee had gotten into drugs. Dan just found this, horrible, and he had trouble accepting it.
How did from your observations, how did the boys interact with Mr. Broderick?
They got along just fine.
Did Danny or Red ever appear to be afraid of their dad?
Never.
Did they do things together? Share time
Yes,
with their father?
the weekends that Dan had the boys, which is every other weekend, he usually planned something for them to do, something fun, and he tried to be available to them when they needed him.
During your employment there, were the boys, did they ever appear to be clothed inappropriately or?
No, I didn't. I did notice that they had lots of clothes, but Rhett tended to want to dress the way he wanted to dress, and sometimes it was not appropriate. He had favorite clothes. And one morning when Dan and Linda were gone on a vacation, I had spent the night, and Rhett decided he was going to dress in some skimpy little shorts that he had for years, and a little top that matched. And I looked at this outfit, and I said, "This is what you want to wear." And he said, "It's my favorite outfit." I said, "Well, Rhett, it's not going to be anymore." I got rid of it because it was too small.
Maybe you approach the bench, Your Honor. I'd like to talk about this witness.
All right. Want to
That's not very nice. Tell her
In the 2-year period of time,
I won't approach because I want to talk about her. It's not very nice at all. She does. She wanted a new Alice for the season. Ronnie, she said, Kim was the kind of daughter you would like to have. And that's why I said, not Ronnie. Ronnie didn't like Kim. But I think her and the 2 housekeepers that we saw testify, I think last week, last week sometime before Lee got on the stand, we're all Dan's. Yeah. Your Honor, she's rambling. I never wanted a Dan in my life. Sorry if your name is Dan. Gabby doesn't want you. Sorry. All right. Here we go. Wrong button.
Time that you worked for Mr. Broderick, did you ever see him be physically abusive to any of the children?
No,
Did any of the children ever complain to you that their father was physically abusive?
no.
From what you observed, how would you describe how he disciplined the children if they did get into trouble?
He would either have me put them in separate rooms by themselves, no TV. That was basically it.
Did you have any complaints about him as a disciplinarian?
Not at all. He was too soft, I thought.
Your Honor, objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Just answer the question. And if she wants you to ask more, she'll ask another question. Go ahead, Ms. Wells.
Thank you. During this period of time, did you have the occasion to get to know Elizabeth Broderick as well?
Yes.
How was it that you would see Elizabeth Broderick?
Well, then she was the mother of the boys. She would call a lot during the week and we'd talk, or I'd take the boys over sometimes on her weekends to drop them off or in between.
So is it fair to say on a weekly basis you would have conversations with her?
Yes.
And in any of those conversations, did she ever describe how she felt about Dan and Linda?
Yes.
Can you describe that for us?
She detested them. She hated them both.
What would she say about them?
She just said that she hated Dan for, all the divorce that they've gone through, and she hated Linda for her interference in the marriage and the whole thing.
Was this something that she only talked about occasionally?
No, she talked about it all the time.
Every conversation that she would have with her?
Yes.
Did she ever complain to you about her money situation?
Oh, yes.
What did she say?
She said that she never had enough money, that she was broke, that Dan had never given her enough in the settlement. She just never had enough.
Did she ever talk about her complaints about money in relation to the boys?
Yeah, she said that when the boys came over, she would like to take them to, special things and on trips and so on. And sometimes she didn't have the money, and mainly that.
Did you ever talk with her about that?
Your Honor,
Yes.
Objection, on for hearsay.
Well, sustained.
Were you aware of the defendant ever canceling visits at the last minute with the boys?
It didn't happen a lot, no. I remember maybe one or two times.
And what would be the reason?
As I recall, she was going someplace with a friend, and the boys coming interfered with those plans. It was just one of those things.
Did she ever appear to be upset about the fact that Dan and Linda were happy?
Yes, that seemed to be a problem.
Do you recall anything specific that she would say about that?
Well, she just was not happy with their happiness. I mean, she detested the whole idea of them being together.
Did she ever say anything to you about why she married Dan Broderick in the first place?
Well, she used to say that she used to criticize Dan a lot, the way he looked when they married and so on, and the way he was. She said he was kind of nerdy and so on. And I said, well, why did you marry him? She says, because he was going to be a money-making machine.
Did she ever express her hate for Dan and Linda in front of the children?
Yes.
Was that something that you talked to her about not doing?
I did not confront her a lot about it because I wanted to keep a relationship with Betty that was, okay. I mean, we had to deal with each other quite a bit.
What sorts of things would you hear her say about Dan and Linda in front of the children?
She would call Dan filthy names in front of the children, always referring to him as, a filthy name, and Linda too. And then, of course, the messages on the machine came in, so the children heard that.
And when you're referring to messages on the machine, you're referring to vulgar language on the machine as well. Did she ever say things to the children about their dad not loving them?
She inferred that if they had children, that he wouldn't love them anymore at all. If they had more children, he'd probably throw them out of the house, and they would be the second best. Her
expressions of hate, her feelings for Dan and Linda, was that something that was fairly constant throughout the time you knew her, or were there any changes in that?
No, it's always the same.
Did you ever have any experiences with her where she would describe circumstances that you knew were not true based on your own knowledge?
No, I have objections to this.
Overruled. Do you understand the question?
Would you repeat it, please?
Were there ever circumstances where she would describe something about not knowing about something when in fact you knew she did know something?
Yes.
Can you describe that?
I would have an objector to the problem.
It's not impeaching anything. It's their case in chief. Go ahead.
There was one time when they were going to I think it was a Notre Dame game and going away, and everyone knew about it. It was, in fact, we had gone over to Betty's house to get clothes for the boys to go. It's almost as if she didn't know what was happening. She called and she was all upset because the boys were going to this football game with their father without even letting her know. And it was strange because she did know. We had discussed it.
Now, when you first started working, that was before Dan and Linda were married,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
And whose voice was on the answering machine at that time? Do you recall?
As I recall, it was usually Kimberly's.
And at some point after they got married, did Linda have her voice on the answering machine?
After they married.
And would you recognize that message if you heard it? The message that she left on the answering machine?
Yes, I think so.
Your Honor, may I have marked as People's Exhibit 60?
59.
I've pre-marked a 59.
All right.
A cassette tape.
Yay, more answering machines. Remember, these old answer machines had the beep, like a body cam footage.
I'm just going to play this message for you, Ms. Kevins, and if you can
It's
indicate if
kinda
you
loud.
recognize it.
Your Honor, I'm having an objection to this relevant at this point.
No overrule. Go ahead.
You have to listen carefully because she talks fast.
Stipulate my reporter doesn't have to take the message down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Hi, you've reached the Brodericks. Dan and I are out and about, so leave your message at the beep. Thanks.
Do you recognize that message?
That sounds like one that she put on after they were married.
That was Linda's voice?
Yes.
Did the defendant talk to the boys often while you worked there?
Yes.
Did she call them on the phone often?
Yes, probably every day.
So there was a lot of contact between them.
Yes, there was.
Sometimes would she call them even more than once a day?
Yes.
Were they free to call her if they wanted to?
Yes,
When they got home from school, if they wanted to call mom, could they call and talk to her?
definitely. And I always left a message if if they weren't going to pick up the machine, I'd tell them their mother had called. Please call her back.
Did you ever see Linda interacting with the children?
Yes,
How would you describe the way that she interacted with
She interacted with Kim wonderfully. I mean, she lent Kim clothes, and they seemed to get along just great. The boys she tried to interact with. The boys were not real receptive, but she tried.
And how about with Lee?
I didn't see her with Lee a lot.
Did Dan Broderick ever do anything or tell you to do anything to make it difficult for Elizabeth Broderick to have contact with the children?
Never.
Did he ever direct you to be mean to her or to cause any problems along those lines?
No.
Did he ever badmouth her to you?
Never did. The only thing Dan ever said was keep your conversation short with her.
Did the defendant ever express an interest in what was going on in Dan and Linda's life?
Yes, very much so.
Can you describe that?
She was interested in everything that went on in their life, every detail.
And she would ask you those
Yes.
for that information?
Yes.
Did she ever express any fear of Dan Broderick?
No.
When you first started working for Mr. Broderick, did the defendant make any threats to kill or hurt him?
Yes,
Can you describe that?
When I first started working for Dan, she said she was going to kill him, and I took it seriously. And I said, "Oh, that would be wonderful. Then Dan would be dead."
Your Honor, objection. Call for-
Sustained. That's not a question.
How did you respond when she said that?
Objection is irrelevant. Right?
No, Judge.
I get to rule. I wear the robe.
Okay, I know.
Go ahead.
How did you respond when she said she was going to kill Dan?
I said that would be wonderful. Dan would be dead. You'd be in prison, and the children would be orphans.
And what did she say to that?
She said after a jury heard what Dan did to me, I'd get off.
Did she ever make any other threats to you about killing or shooting Dan during the course of your employment?
Yes, there was 2 other times.
Okay, when was the first?
The first was when I first started working. The second was their wedding day. She said she was going to kill him on his wedding day.
Do you recall what she said specifically?
She
about
said
that?
she was going to put several bullets through his head.
Do you remember when it was that she made that threat in relation to the wedding?
Probably about 2 weeks before.
And did you do anything with that information?
I told Linda, Kolkena at the time. She was very concerned. They debated.
Your Honor, objection.
Sustained.
Did the defendant say anything to you about practicing or taking shooting lessons?
Yes, she said she had been taking shooting lessons.
And did she say why?
So she'd be a good aim.
And then you indicated that there was another threat that she had made?
Yeah, it was like the summer of '89. She told me that she had had a talk with Dan, one of the few times they'd been talking, and that she told him that either he gave her $1 million in cash, or she was going to kill him. She also indicated that if he did give her the $1 million in cash, she wouldn't bring up wanting custody of the children anymore.
Did she describe how he responded when she threatened to kill him if he didn't give the $1 million?
She said that Dan said, "I don't appreciate you using these remarks," or I don't appreciate, these threats. I don't think he really took it seriously.
I forgot to ask you a question earlier. While you were working there, did you ever see Dan Broderick drink alcohol?
Probably two or 3 or 4 times in the 2 years I was there.
What were the circumstances?
Well, it was after dinner, and he had a glass of wine in his den.
Did you ever see him come home drunk?
Never.
Did you ever see him get drunk or inebriated there at the dinner table or while you were there working?
He didn't have liquor at the dinner table. He had ice water every night.
After the defendant told you about this threat in the summer of '89, did you do anything about that? Did you share those concerns?
I related it to Linda again.
I have no further questions.
Cross-examine.
You started working here in December of 1987.
Yes.
And how would you describe Kim? Is she an emotional person, a level-headed person?
Kim could be somewhat emotional.
Now, you gave your opinion of how Kim was. Question was asked.
Objection, Your Honor. She described Kim.
She asked her opinion of Kim, what kind of girl Kim was.
Sustained. Excuse me, overruled.
Is, in your opinion of Kim, that the daughter everyone would like, have you heard that Kim was the one that introduced her sister Lee to drugs?
Objection. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Sustained.
Your Honor, it's an opinion. I'm allowed to ask so this jury could know what her opinion is based on and whether she considered these things in her opinion.
First, ask her if she knew that happened, then you can ask her if that changed her opinion.
Okay. Did you know that Kim was the one who introduced Lee to drugs?
I never heard that.
Okay. Would that change your opinion if you knew that?
Or the previous objection sustained since facts, not evidence.
Your Honor, this isn't
She has no personal knowledge of it. There is no evidence that happened, Mr. Burley.
You denied me putting the evidence on, Your Honor.
This is in.
Approach sidebar. Didn't deny you putting any evidence on.
Someone's in trouble. I wish we could have heard that one.
Did you know how Kim was doing in school?
No, not really.
So during the time, did you have any knowledge of whether she was flunking classes at the time you were working there?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled, you can answer that. Just yes or no.
Can I ask you a question in reference to are you talking about in college or in high school?
In high school, did you know that that she was having trouble and flunking out of school?
No, I didn't.
Father didn't talk to you about that?
We didn't discuss that, no.
And he never got upset about letters she was getting from her father?
No.
The did you go with the boys when they went to court to talk to the judge? Did you drive them there?
No. I picked him up one time from the proceedings.
Okay. You weren't in the proceedings when they told the.
Objection, Your Honor. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Well, sustained. She said she didn't go there.
Did you at any time gain any knowledge of what the boys told the judge?
No, I didn't.
In the 2 years that you worked there, it's your testimony that maybe two, maybe three times Dan had a drink?
Yes.
And you worked from 12 to 8, is that correct?
Yes.
And Linda didn't come over there much, did she, to the house?
No. She kind of left the dinner hour for Dan to be with the boys.
So she would come after dinner, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you would be, I mean, she basically was coming over, you're gone at that time.
Well, she came sometimes during the day when I was there and the boys were in school.
Okay. You talked about Dan felt horrible about drugs, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did Dan talk to you about his admission of drug use?
Objection.
Sustained.
So did you know about Dan's drug use?
Objection. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Sustained.
I'm asking her if she knew about it, Your Honor.
It's not relevant.
Sustained.
You indicated that Dan would, that the boys were free to call their mother at any time, is that correct?
Yes.
You never saw a time, ever, in the time you worked there, where they weren't allowed to call their mother?
No.
Okay. And they were free to visit anytime they wanted to?
Probably not any time they wanted to. If they had tests they had to study for after school or so on, no, we can find them to study them.
But if they wanted to go over for the weekend, they were just free to ask their dad, and he'd say, sure, go over for the weekend.
If it was her weekend.
Well, in 1987, when you first started working there, she didn't have weekends, did she?
Objection, Your Honor. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Well, sustained. Just ask her if she knew what the visiting arrangement was in 87, Mr.
Do you know what the visiting arrangement was in 87?
As far as I can remember, there was every other weekend with her mother.
You worked there as the housekeeper, so you were the one that was in charge of knowing when the boys would be going to the mother or not, and when
Yes.
to pick them up? And it was your belief that in 1987 they had every other weekend?
Yes,
And in 1988, it was your belief that they had every weekend?
that's correct.
So there was never a time where the boys would call and there would be a system where Ann would wait till Friday to decide whether they're going to see him or not?
Not at
To
all.
your knowledge?
Not at all.
If someone said that, that would be a lie, wouldn't it?
Objection.
To your knowledge?
Well, sustained.
To my knowledge, they had specific weekends they saw their mother every other weekend.
So you didn't have any, there was no system where Dan would have to check with somebody else before he made his decision whether they go over or not? You never heard of that, have you?
No.
It's just 88 and 89, Your Honor.
The objection is as to the time frame.
Yes.
Sustained. Just rephrase it.
In 1988, there was never any system that you knew of where Dan would check with other people before he would decide whether the boys would go over. They had a system set up of every other weekend.
The only thing I could think Dan would check is to be sure that Betty was going to be there the weekend they were going there.
And were you given that schedule? I mean, you're the housekeeper,
Yes.
you're in charge. So in 1987, when you first started working there, at the end of 87, someone gave you a calendar with the weekends so you knew which ones the boys were going to go to.
I knew it was every other weekend, and I knew which weekends it was. I started in December of 87, so I had 2 weeks left of 87 probably.
And so all through 88, you knew then that it was pretty regularly every other weekend.
Yes.
Was the ringers ever turned off the phone in the house?
Sometimes.
Well, would it be that every evening the ringers would be turned off?
Not to my knowledge.
But what time of the day would you know that the ringers were turned off?
Sometimes when I come to work at 12:30, I can't say they'd be turned off, they may be turned down.
You never remember them being turned off.
Once in a while.
How about the phone? Was the phone ever, do you have to go hunt for the phone sometimes?
No.
Okay. So the phone was always, as far as never was in a closet or in a drawer or anything.
The upstairs phone sometimes was unhooked.
Okay, but downstairs phone.
Downstairs phone was usually there.
And during the time that you were there, was there a time where you were told, turn the phone off? Phone isn't, no calls allowed in this house.
No,
So pretty much all the time during the day, when the kids got home from school, they would get calls, they would be allowed to talk on the phone.
yes.
Okay. During dinner, they would, if they got a call, they would know they got a call.
I would take the call. I would relate it to him after dinner.
And after dinner, they were allowed to have any calls.
Yes.
And were there times where any of the children were told they weren't allowed to use the house because there was not enough food?
No.
You remember a time where you told Lee, when she was living there, that you didn't have enough food for her to eat? She had to go over mother's to eat?
No.
All right, I'd like to pay a tape for the witness.
Sure, Mark, sure.
My objection, rather than take this.
Did you want to talk for a minute, work that out?
I'm not about the proof.
It's a tape of Lee talking to her brother over from the Cypress home to the home in her mother's home.
I object to that. I get this witness.
What's your question of this witness? Did
I want to
she
see
hear
if
the
this
tape?
refreshes her memory as to that happened.
Got it.
Well, you play it for this witness, but not in front of the jury. If it refreshes her memory, then you can play it in front of the jury.
Maybe if I have a small tape recorder, maybe she can just step out in the hallway and listen to it.
That's fine.
Want her to step out here somewhere?
Or step in the back hall if you're better, might be able to score it back there.
You related to us a conversation that Betty told you that she had with Mr. Broderick sometime in September. Is that correct? Or sometime in 1989.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you remember approximately what time that was?
Seemed to me it was late summer.
Have you ever seen any correspondence that relates to that conversation where that allegation's been made by anybody, by Mr. Broderick, by you, by Mrs. Broderick?
No.
Ever shown any court documents? You know of any court documents that exist as to the conversation?
No.
Any letters to between people that exist of that
No.
conversation? And you can only remember in those 2 years, there were the 3 times where Betty's made threats to kill. Have there been other times?
There could be. I don't specifically remember.
Okay, but it wasn't an often occurrence that she would talk bad about him, but these stood out because it was so unusual for her to say she's going to kill him.
Well, yes. Anybody saying they're going to kill somebody is unusual.
Was there any time where you ever told there would be a reason not to let Betty talk to the children or not to let Betty have the children?
I don't recall at the time. No.
Were you given, was there any problems with Betty coming over to the house in Cypress?
She had a restraining order not to come in the house, to stay so far away.
Yeah. Well, was there ever a time where she would come in the house bringing the
Yes.
boys back?
Yes.
Were you instructed to call the police when that happened?
Yes, I was.
And normally, except for those 2 occasions, Ms. Broderick was very reliable in picking up the boys and dropping them off.
Yes, she was reliable. Yes.
Who was it that was picking the boys up? Do you know? Was it Betty that would pick them up and deliver them, as far as you know?
I would deliver them a lot of the time.
How about Dan?
A few occasions.
And you never heard Linda talk bad about Betty at all?
Linda had said a few remarks.
And the home, that Mr. Broderick's home, was not really set up for children, was it?
Yes,
Objection, Your Honor. They have developed.
Sustained.
The, did the boys want to live with their mother?
they were torn between wanting to live with their mother and their father.
The, and was there a fine system in effect when you worked there?
Objection, unless this is for personal.
Well, vague as to fine system against who, Mr. Earl?
Against Mrs. Broderick?
Not that I know of, no.
The, did she ever talk to you about that?
I don't recall her. I think the fine system, if there was one, I had heard rumors of it, was before I came to work for them.
The, did, when she talked about, you indicated that she would talk about the boys not liking, the boys being over at Mr. Broderick's home? Did she ever talk about that, not liking the boys being over there, the neighborhood he was living in?
She had indicated that she didn't like it because there was a lot of homosexuals around.
The, did she talk about traffic?
No, didn't call her.
Did she talk about boys getting into accidents? Being
No.
upset? Did the boys get into accidents when they were living there? That you were aware of?
Yes, I was aware of once when my daughter was taking care of Rhett for me. He did go out in front of a car with his bike.
But you don't remember her being upset about that?
She wasn't overly upset that I recall.
Well, you remember testifying that your memory, she was somewhat upset about that?
I wasn't there at the time of the accident, nor was I there for probably 1 or 2 days later. So by the time Betty and I discussed this, it was not a big deal.
Did she discuss you with about an accident that Danny got in when no one was home?
No,
That you knew nothing about that?
no, I don't.
Did you know anything about a boy getting hurt climbing telephone wires?
No, I don't.
And you never heard the boys calling up and leaving messages for their mother where they would be upset or being over alone with nobody to play with, anything to do? You never remember anything like that?
They were sometimes bored at home, yes, but I didn't hear the conversations they had with their mother about it.
I don't know the question.
Redirect.
If the children were picked up after a weekend of being with Elizabeth Broderick, it was Dan Broderick who would have picked them up, is that correct? On Sunday?
Yes, it would be a Sunday evening.
So, because you were not working.
That's right.
So if there was, if you were taking the kids over to Elizabeth Broderick's house, that would have been like on a Friday before a weekend?
Yes.
And just to clarify, is it correct to say that it wasn't unusual for Elizabeth Broderick to talk?
Clara, I'm going to object. You can ask her a question.
Was it unusual or usual for the defendant to talk badly about Dan and Linda Broderick?
As usual.
And you don't know of your own personal knowledge what Dan Broderick's contacts were with the children's psychologist discussing visitation, those sorts of things?
No, I don't.
Were the children going to psychologists, as far as you know, when you were working for Dan Broderick?
Yes, because I took them.
And when you indicated that Linda had said a few remarks about Elizabeth Broderick, was that to you personally?
She had said things that certainly weren't, they weren't vulgar words.
Was that to you?
Yes.
Okay, was that, did you ever hear her do that in front of the boys?
No.
So there was in a conversation between you and.
Yes.
Linda didn't like Elizabeth Broderick at that point very much.
No, not very much.
Was she afraid of her?
Yeah.
And the messages, the vulgar messages that she would leave on the machine, that the defendant would leave on the machine, did Dan Broderick want the boys to hear those?
Not at all.
I have no further questions.
Recross?
No.
Would the space used?
Somebody's recalling.
Somebody's reading.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
For the record, and spell your last name. Yes, it's Kathleen Cafaro, Cuff as in Frank, Aro.
Thank you. Morning, Ms. Cafaro.
Morning.
Can you tell us what your employment is?
At the present time,
Sure.
I'm a lawyer
How long have you been a lawyer?
for, I think about 9 years.
And did you ever work as an attorney for Mr. Dan?
Yes, I did.
When was it that you started working for Mr. Broderick?
I went to work for him in the spring of 1988. I think it was probably April.
Had you had contact or met Mr. Broderick before you started working for him?
I had met him on one occasion. I had spoken with him on the phone a couple of occasions, but we had never had any formal meetings before I went to work for him.
Who did you work for before you worked for Dan Broderick?
I worked for a family law firm in San Diego, Mitchell, Keeney, Berry, and Pike.
And did one of those attorneys represent Dan Broderick during his divorce?
Yes, one of the partners, Mr. Berry, did.
Did you do any work on the divorce when you were working for that firm?
I didn't do any work on the divorce per se. I was involved in an appellate issue that came up during the course of the divorce involving spousal support, and I wrote an appellate brief. That was my only connection with the divorce.
And was that how you first met Dan Broderick?
I actually didn't meet him then. I had such a limited involvement in the case. I just was looking at papers, basically. I didn't meet him at that time, no.
When you went to work for Mr. Broderick, who else was working in the firm?
He had one other attorney working for him, a fellow named Bob Bogey, and then there was clerical staff there.
Did Linda Kolkena work for him at the time?
Yeah, she was office manager / legal assistant at the time, yeah.
What essentially were her duties in the firm?
Boy, she did all kinds of things. She interviewed new clients over the telephone, helped screen our incoming calls. She had interview meetings with the clients with Mr. Broderick when they would sit down and get the facts and determine whether it was a medical malpractice case or something they wanted to pursue. She was involved in maintaining the payroll of the other people that worked there. She was involved in setting up depositions, talking with the expert witnesses. She did practically everything there was to do there.
Was she a competent paralegal?
I think she was very competent. She was extremely smart. Write the appellate brief.
Now, when the appeal was filed by the defendant, did you have any discussions with Mr. Broderick about whether or not he should file a cross appeal?
Yeah, I did. I suggested to
Your Honor, I have
him.
an objection. It's hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I believe his state of mind at this point is relevant.
I'll just ask her if there was a cross appeal filed.
Was a cross appeal filed by Dan Broderick?
No, we did not file a cross appeal.
Had it been your recommendation to do so?
Yes, it had been.
I have zero idea how that happened because I didn't touch any. I didn't move anything. I didn't touch anything. I have no idea. There was a message that came up that said the host muted the mic. I thought Gabby was messing with me. I don't know what happened because I wasn't doing anything. I just had my mic muted. That's it. I apologize. You didn't miss anything. I don't think. She's just talking about Linda at the law firm. Because Microsoft is Microsoft. I don't know. Weird. I don't know. What's up? StreamYard's haunted or something. Sorry about that. But here we go. Again.
And did he indicate why he didn't want to do that?
Your Honor, objection, hearsay.
That's irrelevant. Sustained.
Wait, that was you, Gabby? Thank you. I was like, what is happening? Okay, that's all good. I just wanted to know. I was very confused. Yes, because that was the last thing I laughed at, is that Linda did everything at the firm. And I was like, Betty probably was like, yeah, she did. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you, Gabby, for letting me know that StreamYard is not haunted.
After the divorce became final in January of '89, did he at any time request that you file an appeal on his behalf?
No, he did not.
Did he at any time request that you file any motions for reduction of alimony, for example?
No, he did not.
Did he request that you file any contempts against Elizabeth Broderick?
No, on the contrary, he did not.
Other than preparing to respond to the appeal that the defendant had filed in May and June and July, did you do anything for Mr. Broderick with respect to the divorce during those months?
Yeah, I did. I became involved when there was some issues involving the two minor boys.
Was that in August of 1989?
I think that was my first involvement. Yeah, I think it was August.
What did Mr. Broderick ask for your assistance to help him in that regard?
Yeah, he did.
Can you describe what happened?
It was around mid-August, as I recall, and he came into my office and told me that.
Your Honor, objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may I approach sidebar?
No, just rephrase the question.
Were there some problems that were related to you with respect to the defendant not returning rent?
Yes. I understood that Rhett was.
Your Honor, objection, it's beyond this.
Get a chance to answer the question. Just ask another question.
Had Rhett been returned at the end of a visitation when he was supposed to?
No, he had not.
Did Mr. Broderick ask for your assistance to help him?
He asked me what we could do about it.
What did you tell him?
I told
Your Honor,
him.
objection, hearsay.
Overruled. So personal knowledge, what you told him. Go ahead. What you tell him.
I told Mr. Broderick that since there was a court order that he was to have Rhett in his possession at that time, that I thought that we could bring a contempt of court action and get him back that way. I also suggested that perhaps I could call her attorney and talk to him and see what we could do about getting Rhett back informally.
Did Mr. Broderick want you to file a contempt action?
No, he did not.
Did he say why?
Your Honor, objection, call for hearsay.
So just answer that yes or no.
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
Objection,
said-
Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
You presented him with the two options of filing a contempt action or calling her attorney to try and get him back informally. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Your Honor, objection, leading to ask and answer.
Overruled. Go ahead.
And which did he ask you to do?
He suggested that we try calling Walter Mond first and seeing if we could work it out informally.
And Walter Mond was the attorney who was representing the defendant at the time?
Yes.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to work it out informally to get Rhett back?
No, I called Walter and asked and told him that Rhett was supposed to be with his dad and that he wasn't could asked him if he could try to do something about it and get Rhett returned to his dad.
Was he able to do anything, as far as you knew, to get Rhett returned informally?
No, he was not.
Do you know what happened to where Rhett was?
I found out that Rhett had been sent to Lake Tahoe.
What can you describe Dan's demeanor when this was happening? How did he feel about it?
He was, I think he looked sad and concerned that these things were happening again. And when he found out that Rhett was in Lake
Your Honor,
Tahoe, he was
objection.
upset.
Calls for conclusion and hearsay.
No, that's an opinion that a lay witness can form. The answer stands. Go ahead.
Did, when Rhett was not returned, did you make any suggestions about filing a contempt action at that time?
Yes, I did.
And what was Mr. Broderick's response?
He didn't want me to do that.
Overruled. The answer stands.
Did you file any contempt actions on his behalf?
No, I did not.
What did you do at that point?
Well, at that point, I called Walter Mond back and told him that I was going to have to go into the family law court and ask for an order that Rhett be returned. And because it was Mrs. Broderick's upcoming weekend for her visitation, I told him that I wanted the court to order that Rhett be returned on Sunday evening after her visitation with them.
And did Mr. Mond indicate to you that he would attempt to do that, to have Rhett returned at that time?
Yes, he did.
Was Rhett returned at that time?
No, he was not.
What did you do at that point?
After the weekend, I got a call from Mr. Mond, and that's how I first learned that Rhett had not been returned to his father. And I was told that Rhett was back in San Diego, but that he wasn't at his dad's house. So I went in and talked to Dan and told him that we were back kind of at square one, and there was an order again that had been violated,
Your Honor, objection, hearsay.
Overruled. Go ahead.
and that I suggested that we go back, that this time we do go in and file a contempt action against her. I was completely frustrated.
What was Mr. Broderick's response?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
He wanted to avoid doing that and suggested that I try to go back into court again and get another order that Rhett come back.
Did he say why he wanted to avoid filing any contempts?
He didn't want to add any more fuel to the fire. He just wanted his little boy back.
To your knowledge, had he planned a trip for Rhett that had been foiled by this?
Yeah, they were going to go to Catalina together for the weekend.
Did you ultimately get an order from the court to have Rhett returned?
Yes, I did.
And was he ultimately returned?
He was ultimately returned after he was sent to New York City to be with his parents for a week.
His grandparents?
His grandparents.
Okay. And then were you notified as to when he was returning from there?
No, I got a court order when we found out he was in New York that he be returned on Monday, which was Labor Day, Monday afternoon. Dana decided that since he was already there, he may as well stay with his grandparents. And the order was that he be returned to Lindbergh Field on Monday, and that we be informed about the time and the flight number of his flight arrival, and that never happened. Dan called his Brett's grandparents and found out from them what time he would be in, and he was able to go then and pick him up.
Sometime in early September, did you become aware that the defendant filed a motion for custody of Danny and Rhett?
Yeah, I did. It was while Rhett was still in New York City with his grandparents.
Now, this was a motion that was filed by the defendant, correct?
That's right. And an ex parte hearing, the informal hearing that you can have with the court, was what got me down there when I was handed the papers in the first place.
Did Mr. Broderick file an immediate opposition to that?
No, he didn't.
What started to happen at that point?
He and I talked about what we should do in response to the motion.
Is it normal procedure to take depositions, for example, of the people involved when a motion like that is made?
Your Honor, objection.
Well, sustained.
Were any
It's
depositions?
not sustained on the on the calls for conclusion. She's an attorney. It's sustained on relevancy grounds. Go ahead.
Let me back up. Did Mr. Broderick begin considering at that point turning over custody to Elizabeth Broderick?
Shortly thereafter, we started to talk about it, yes.
And what were his particular concerns?
Your Honor, objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You can answer that.
Well, we had several concerns during this period of time when we were talking about turning the boys
Your Honor,
over.
objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Was Dan concerned about the emotional welfare of his boys?
Yeah, he
Your Honor,
was.
objection, leading.
Sustained.
Can you describe his concerns in relation to his boys at the time?
He realized that when the boys were with their mother, it was generally quiet, and he thought that maybe they weren't being subjected to all of the turmoil that they were being subjected to when he had them with him. And he thought that maybe after trying everything else, if she were to have them for some time, they would be better off, that they would be not subjected to the daily emotional upheaval that was a part of their lives.
Did you begin negotiating with Walter Mond to turn over custody of the boys to Mrs. Broderick?
Yes.
Were there a couple of letters that went back and forth between you and Mr. Mond in that regard?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's already been marked as People's Exhibit 34 and 28. If you could take a look at both of those letters and see if you recognize them, you can pull them out of the folder if you need to.
Yes, I recognize both of them.
Can you just briefly describe what they are?
One of them is a
Your
letter.
Honor, objection. It's either best evidence or
Well, she's got to make a record of what she's referring to. So you can start by referring to the exhibit number and then just tell us what it is that you're referring to.
Referring to People's Exhibit 34, can you just identify what that is?
That's a letter that I got from Walter Mond.
Regarding transferring custody of the boys?
Yes.
And referring to People's 28, I believe. Can you identify that letter?
That is a letter that I sent to Walter Mond after I got his letter of October 27th on the same subject.
Sometime during September, while this was going on, did the defendant also make a request to have the boys, have visitation of the boys while Dan was in Greece?
Yes.
Okay. And were you aware of the fact that Dan Broderick had written a letter to Mr. Mond describing that he was going to Greece and what was going to occur during that time as far as taking care of the boys?
Yeah, I had seen the letter.
And showing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 36. Is that particular letter?
Yes, it is.
And was that something that Mr. Broderick necessarily had to do, for example, to advise Mr. Mond of what was going on while he was out of town?
No, there was no order that I was aware of that he do so. No.
That was just a courtesy on his part?
Yes.
And after the letter was sent, did Mrs. Broderick make a request to have the boys when he was out of town?
Yeah, I believe I was noticed ex parte to go in and have the judge decide that issue.
Okay. And did you stipulate to, on behalf of Mr. Broderick, to allow her to have the boys that week?
Yes, I did. We did.
Okay. So he didn't object to that? He didn't fight that, is that correct?
No, he did not.
Did you get a specific order from the court regarding that week?
Yes, Mr. Mond and I went and appeared before a judge in the family law court, and there was an order that allowed her to have the boys during that week.
I'm showing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 35. Do you recognize that order?
Yes, I do.
When you were in court at that time to allow Mrs. Broderick to have the boys for that week, did you and Mr. Mond also stipulate to the switch of a weekend for visitation?
I recall it being discussed, but I don't recall the specifics of that.
Okay. Do you recall that Mr. Broderick wanted to have the boys with him the weekend that he was going to Notre Dame?
Yes, I remember that's what we talked about. Is I think they went annually to Notre Dame for this big family thing, and that I think that weekend fell on a day when she was supposed to have the kids. So we were trying to get it switched around so that they could switch weekends and he could take the boys to Notre Dame.
And if you could take a look at the order that's been marked as People's 35, the last paragraph on page 2, does that refresh your recollection about whether or not you all stipulated to a switch of the week?
I know that we ended up switching the weekend. I honestly can't recall whether the judge said that this is what will happen or whether Walter and I had an agreement about switching the weekend.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. But anyway, it was decided at that time that there would be a switch of the weekend.
Yes.
So this wasn't a situation where Dan Broderick was taking an extra weekend. He was simply taking one weekend that was hers and she was taking one weekend that was his.
Yes.
Now, I take it when Mrs. Broderick made the request for visitation of the boys while Dan was in Greece, he could have objected to that. Is that correct?
Yes, he could have.
And given the fact that she had violated orders and not turned the boys back when she had visitation, could he have made some requests of the court along those lines?
Yes, in response to her request ex parte to have the boys, we could have gone in and objected to it and have been heard on that.
She had court-ordered visitation at that time, is that correct?
Yes,
And if one party violates the orders, can another party get those orders rescinded?
yes, that's one of the options that's available. It's up to the court to decide what they'll do, but that you could certainly ask that that happen.
Did Mr. Broderick make that request?
No,
During October then, when you were negotiating with Weltermond and these things were going on, did you become aware of the fact that Elizabeth Broderick was leaving obscene messages on Dan Broderick's phone again?
yes,
And did you talk to Dan about that?
yes.
Did he want you to do anything in particular?
We agreed that we would write a letter to Walter Mond, who we thought maybe could do something about it.
Hearsay. Or
You indicated that you agreed to write a letter to Weltermond.
And let him know what was going on and see if maybe he could do something about it.
Again, was there any request of Dan Broderick to file a contempt action at that time?
On the contrary, he didn't want to do that.
may this be a continuing objection, Ron?
Sustain. Excuse me, I can get the continuing objection.
You indicated that did you write a letter then on behalf of Mr. Broderick to Walter Mond with respect to these obscene messages?
Yes,
And showing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 27. Do you recognize that letter?
yes,
Did you say yes?
yes,
Is that the letter that you sent to Walter Mond?
yes.
What's the date of that letter?
October 27, 1989.
Obviously, no ultimate hearings were held in the court with respect to transferring custody of the children, is that correct?
That's right.
Dan and Linda Broderick were killed on November the 5th, correct?
Yes.
Had you become good friends of Dan and Linda Broderick's during the course of your employment there?
Yeah, I had.
In fact, did you go on this Greece trip with Dan?
It was a firm retreat. Yeah, I went.
Okay. So it was other people in the firm went.
He took both his attorneys, the two of us, Bob Bogie and myself, and Bob's girlfriend at the time and my husband.
Were you with Mr. Broderick the night before he was killed?
Yes,
And Linda?
yes.
What did you guys do?
We went out to dinner with another couple who we had hoped that would go on the trip to Greece with us who weren't able to go. And we looked at our pictures and talked about what a good time we had and had dinner.
That was Saturday night, November the 4th.
Yes.
And I take it that was the last time that you saw Dan and Linda Broderick?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Question.
What time did you, do you know what time you left the restaurant?
No, I really don't. I don't have a specific recollection.
Was it late that evening, early that evening?
It was late. I think we dropped them off at their house between 11 and 11:30 that night. So we must have left the restaurant somewhere around 11.
Did Mr. Broderick have anything to drink that evening?
Yes.
And how much do you remember him having to drink?
I didn't pay any specific attention to how much he had to drink.
Did he appear that he drank a lot, a little?
Maybe somewhere in between. I don't think he was drunk.
Who was driving that evening?
I was.
And the other person that you were with was Mr. Chapin?
Right.
Okay, he doesn't work for the firm.
No.
Did they, Mr. Broderick was a fairly meticulous lawyer, wasn't he?
I would say so.
And a very neat and orderly person.
I would say so.
And usually when he did things, he documented them fairly well, did he not?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to the relevance of the matter.
You can ask that question overruled.
I would say so. We certainly tried to.
And on this case here, obviously, when there would be decisions made, there would be memos going in the file, would there not?
Generally not.
Okay, so you weren't documenting anything when he was making a decision as to what to do and what not to do. was no memos going in the file.
No, there was really no need for there to be.
No record being kept at all as to what you were saying, what he was saying.
No.
Had you reviewed your file before you came to testify?
Yeah, I had these letters in a file that I looked at.
Well, have you looked at anything else, or you just looked at those letters?
A little calendar that I had kind of recreated for myself before I testified in the first trial, and the transcript of my testimony from the first trial.
And where did you get that calendar? Was that going through your file in the office?
Where did I get the calendar?
Yeah, to make the calendar for your testimony. Did you go through the file in the office so you could get dates and when things happen, or did you do this all off the top of your head?
I did it by looking at the dates of the letters and then kind of figuring backwards how things had happened, and looking at the court orders that had happened after those ex parte hearings.
So you didn't go through your office file to look and see whether there was other dates or other things that weren't in evidence here? You only used the ones that were in evidence?
I believe so, yes.
Was there a reason that you didn't review your file to make sure that you weren't missing a date or something didn't happen that maybe no one knew about?
I didn't have a file.
Well, so you didn't review Mr. Broderick's file?
No, it wasn't in my possession.
When you worked for Mr. Berry's firm, that was a divorce firm, is that correct?
They had a couple of partners who did other things, but I worked primarily for the attorneys who did family law.
Now, when you went to court to, visitation can be decided by a court or can be decided between the parties. It doesn't have to have court involved, is that correct?
True.
And when you went to court for Elizabeth Broderick to have the boys, they were, the Brodericks, Mr. Broderick and Linda Broderick were going to be out of town, is that correct?
Objection Vegas to what he's referring to.
That's the same, just rephrase it, Mr. Early.
The time that you went to court over Mrs. Broderick having the children during a Greece vacation, obviously Dan and Linda were going to be out of town, is that correct?
Right.
And Mrs. Broderick was not in court, was she?
I don't know. Occasionally I saw her in the hallway, but I don't recall if she was there at that specific time or not.
And one of the things that Mr. Broderick wanted, if she was going to have the boys in Greece, he brought up with you that he wanted the boys on that weekend in October, is that correct?
I don't have a specific recollection about that, to tell you the truth.
Well, you didn't, I mean, it wasn't just a guess that you walked into court and said, I think that Dan Broderick may want the children this weekend. Someone had to bring that up to you that he wanted to switch for that weekend, isn't that correct?
Right, but it wasn't a condition to her having the boys while we were in Greece.
It just so happened that the two of them came up at the same time.
Right, we were going to be in court, so we talked about it all at the same time.
And do you know whether there was any contact made with Elizabeth Broderick to check the weekend that was being switched, whether that was okay with her or whether she had any other plans? Do you know whether that was done at all?
I don't know.
Mr. Broderick also was participating in the divorce case himself, was he not?
Yes.
Okay, so he was taking depositions?
Yeah, he took the depositions of the two psychologists.
And were you present for those depositions?
No.
And I take it those were psychologists that were hired by Mrs. Broderick or her attorney?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Redirect?
Just to clarify, when you were in court to deal with transfer of visitation during Greece and the switch of weekends, you were dealing with Mr. Mond, who was representing the defendant at the time.
Right.
Okay. Nothing from you.
Rick Ross?
No, Your Honor.
Witness Stacy Gibbs?
Yes,
No.
sir.
No objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carl.
Your Honor, we have one other witness this morning. He is rather short.
Right, and you'll have what, two more this afternoon?
That's correct.
case is going fairly quickly. It may not seem like it to you, but they are ahead of their estimate that they gave me. They have one more witness this morning, 2 more witnesses that are scheduled this afternoon. At that point, the people are going to rest their case. So I think what Mr. Burkhoff is suggesting is that we continue on this morning with this next witness without a break, and then we'll excuse you folks till 1:30. Is there anybody that has to have a break at this point? If so, just raise your hand, nod your head. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Burkhoff.
I think we better check and make sure Mr. France is out there.
And we'll be in 1 minute.
Sure, go ahead.
He's here.
That was the squeakiest of the chairs. No, this is still the state flash fan.
Mr. France, just a minute. What's she?
Sir, could you please raise your hand to be sworn, please? You do solemnly swear the testimony about to give and the matter nothing before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sir, could you please have a seat and witness stand?
Morning, how are you? Mr. Burkhoff, why don't you get these exhibits off the table? This is what we're using them. Go ahead.
Sir, could you please state your full name for the record and spell your last name?
Stephen H. France, Frantz.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. France, what do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney.
And recalling your attention back to September of 1986, do you recall taking a couple shooting classes during that month at a pistol range on India Street here in San Diego?
Yes, I do.
Do you happen to recall the specific dates that you took the shooting class in September of 86?
Yes, I do.
How is it that you still have a recollection of that?
The reason I have a recollection is that my attorney yearbook, which I have in front of me, 1986, reflects the fact that I took the class on September 2nd and also on September 9th, 1986. I have kept my attorney yearbooks for approximately the last 20 years, so I do have detailed records of what I've done over those years. Plus, I have an independent recollection of the events in 1986 of September 2nd and September 9th.
Now, what kind of shooting classes were these that you took on that date?
This was a class given at the San Diego Indoor Pistol Range on India Street here in San Diego. It was a 6-hour class. It met for 3 hours on September 2nd, the night of September 2nd, and 3 hours the night of September 9th. And basically, it was a set of classes. The first 3 hours dealt with classroom instruction, the last 3 hours with shooting the actual pistols, but basically learning how to shoot a pistol.
Now, I assume the September 9th date would be the last 3 hours where you were actually doing the shooting.
That's correct.
And that was essentially 3 hours of shooting.
That's correct.
What kind of guns was the class using?
We used literally every type of pistol that you can think of: 22s, 38s, 44s, 45, 9mm pistol. Basically, most of the pistols that you would shoot.
And these are all handguns you're talking about?
They are handguns, yes.
Including both revolvers and automatic or semi-automatics. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Now, on the second class, the one you just described, were you there alone or with somebody else?
The class consisted, as I recall, of approximately 15 or 20 people. And the second class where we did some shooting, there were approximately 6 or 7 stalls that we shot in. And there were other people in the class shooting along with myself. And I had a friend that was with me by the name of Ed Skubiak, who at that time was a deputy marshal.
He's retired now?
And he is now retired.
Now, when you talk about these stalls, can you give the jury a feeling of the layout of these stalls, where you were standing, where Ed was standing, where the targets might have been, that sort of thing?
I was in a stall that was toward the west end of the shooting area, the next to the last stall. And as I've indicated, the stalls, there were approximately 6 to 7 stalls, and you were in stall and shot at a target.
What kind of target was it?
As I recall, they were paper type of targets, and the targets would have a circle, and you try to put your shots within the circle.
That would be the bullseye you're talking
The
about?
bullseye.
How far away were these targets?
I would say approximately 45 feet.
And while you and Mr. Subiak were doing the shooting, did anybody come to your attention particularly?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
The lady next to me, who would have been to my left, as I recall, the far left stall, which would be the westernmost part of the shooting range, was doing very well and putting her shots within the cluster towards the bullseye. And during the course of our shooting, I struck up a conversation with her.
This lady was right next to you, the immediate stall to your left. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Is that person present in court today?
Yes, she is.
Could you point her up, please?
The lady in the tan outfit with blonde hair.
Your Honor, for the record, indicating the defendant in this action.
Record may so indicate.
Now you say you started a conversation up with the defendant?
That's correct.
What did you say?
I don't recall what she said. It was just a conversation regarding shooting at the targets. And I indicated to her that she was doing very well, better than I was. And that's just small talk.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examine.
So when you went to the, was this a health club that you belonged to?
I guess you could classify it as a health club.
Okay, and there's attached to it is the firing range.
Yes.
And now when you're in the stalls, is this a normal indoor firing range? You wear the earphones and the goggles?
You wear the earphones.
Did you wear goggles at that one?
I don't think I did.
Okay. So I take it that while you're shooting, you don't talk to anybody through the earphones.
That's correct.
And when you talked to the person next to you, did you come to know who she was?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You knew who she indicated that her husband had been missed, or her husband was Mr. Broderick?
I didn't know who she was at first. During the course of the conversation, it came out that I was a lawyer, and she indicated she was married to a lawyer. And I asked who. She said Dan Broderick, who I knew.
But you didn't know her?
No, I did not.
And do you remember seeing her on the first day in class when you were all sitting around learning about the guns themselves before you fired them?
Not really. She could have been there, but I don't have any recollection that she was.
I have no further questions.
Correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you said that you knew Daniel Broderick at that time?
Yes, I did.
And how was it that you knew him?
He was a lawyer. I was a lawyer. I had had a case with him about 10 years before, but we weren't close personal friends.
You said you had a case with him. Were you on the same side?
No, opposite sides.
And what was it that first caught your attention about the defendant that caused you to have this conversation with him?
Your Honor, objection. Let's be honest.
I think he brought that up.
No, sustained. Didn't bring that up.
When you first saw the defendant, what was it that caused you to bring it? What was it that brought her to your attention?
Your Honor, objection is beyond the scope of this matter.
Sustained on both those grounds.
Thank you. No further questions.
Recross. Witness be excused.
No objection.
Thank you, Mr. France.
Thank you, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our morning and noon recess at this time. We'll be in recess.
There, recess. Forever. I don't know what the point of that witness was, other than to put her at the firing range. Pow, pow. All right. Well, that stream was not without some hiccups. Some you didn't even see because they were going on behind the scenes. Ah, well, that was funny. It's funny, funny, funny. Wait. Morning, afternoon-ish recess, said the judge. He's like, I need a break from all you people. I broke nothing. Thank you. Gabby accidentally muted the whole stream. It's hilarious. Hilarious. It was good times, though. Good times. Let me see what we have for tomorrow. It wasn't even the boomer. Thanks. Wow. Rude. All right, so tomorrow, let's see how long this. Let me do this real quick. That way, if it stops. Yay, Monday, I win. Oh my gosh, don't even. This Monday can like shove it where the sun doesn't shine. You guys have been the brightest part of my day. I mean that 100%. Let's see, what do we got going on tomorrow? Well, we have a forensic scientist and a firearm expert. There we go. And then we have 2 more, we have 2 more days, which of course is gonna just take us right to Lori's. Lori. So we have 2 more days of witnesses. Whoo-wee. That one's 3.5-hour day. That's a long day. And then when the state rests before we get to Betty. So we'll will not get to the last day of the state before Lori's trial starts. But then once Lori is done, if we don't get to this really long 3.5-hour day, I might have to see about splitting that one. The first witness, and I don't know if she's the only witness because I don't look that far ahead, is Betty Broderick. And boy, do we got a lot of Betty. We got lots and lots of Betty. There are 12 parts to Betty. 12 parts to Betty. Holy smokes. Ooh. Ooh-wee, that's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, no. Wow. Sounds like a book series, 12 Parts to Betty. Maybe that should have been the name of the book. Somebody needs to write that book. We gave you the title, you do the rest of the work. Okay. And also we want half. And we don't want paid in candy bars. We made that very clear earlier. Betty's probably going to get on your nerves. There's no doubt in my mind, Ronnie. for 12 parts, she's going to get on your nerves. Yes, you do. You get more. So we want half. So then I'll give you 30 and I'll take 20. Does that add up? Because we got half. Does that work? All right. Don't make me do math. All I am good for is frolicking at the beach, making sandwiches, and playing with babies. As we learned in the Chloe Driver trial, women do not do math equations. But we're smart enough to not drink our own urine. So, gotcha. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Sorry about the buffering and issues you didn't see and issues you heard. We're just fun. We're just fun. That's all we are. So, yeah, don't sip on you. Yes, don't do what Gabby just said right there. And she apologizes for muting the whole stream. Watchman, you have fun with reading your 17-day testimony. Yikes. Ew. All right, so tomorrow, I plan to be on time tomorrow. So there's that. Sorry I was late today, but we made it. We still made pretty good time. I'm pretty proud of us. So, well, today was just it was the perfect storm of everything hit out like once. So like Lori's trial got delayed. I was trying to get Betty's stuff ready, and then something else happened, and then something else happened, and then Betty wasn't ready. And I was like, holy crap, I am so late. And then also I like I never quite know like when my husband's gonna get home from work. I used to know, like his other job, like before he started this job a few years ago, like you could time it like to the minute. But this job is like a 24/7 one, so I never know. And they could do a meeting at the end of the day, whatever. So I'm trying to like accommodate for that, so that sometimes it's just everything, it can go 100% smooth through the morning, and then everything hit the fan in the afternoon. Hence today. But we made it. We got it. So, but I'll be at my dad's tomorrow, so I can should be able to set up the stream while I'm there. And then that way I just have to click it to public. And if I can't click it to public, I know somebody that can, Gabby, so that it's ready to roll, ready to go. But all right, that's all my excitement. Happy Monday, all of you. Yay. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'm pulling the plug. It is lights out for this Monday for me. That's it. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Grandma has Star Wars trivia at 9. I can send you over there, but it's a little early. But Grandma has Star Wars trivia at 9. And she's fun. So I'm just not over there because I'm never up that late. So, Flashman, of course you're going to go eat. I told the closed captionings earlier made it like the state said, I love food. And Gabby said, that's what Flashman would say. And I was like, he would say that needs to be on a t-shirt. You just get your t-shirt. I love food. Period. Full stop. That's it. Oh, there's Grandma. Hey, Grandma. Do you want me? I can like redirect to you. I figured it was kind of early, but I will. I can, and I will. You've been lurker. So, so you were here for all the fun that you could see and couldn't see. Things were so messed up behind the scenes today. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, but it's starting to tick me off. But she's been spying. I don't know how to run. I don't know how to run OBS, even though they're like, it's so easy. It is not for me. Easy for who? Youngins? Like people that grew up not in the corn? Which one are you? Are you? Nope. Nope. Where you at, Grandma? There you are. Gotcha. All right, guys, they're going over to Grandma's. Yeah, well, I did. Who's running from Obi-Wan Kenobi? You probably didn't even know that I could say that. I will, Shani. I tried doing it on the fly, and I had to see it, and then I just did a whole bunch of stuff. So that, yeah, I just did stuff. I'll figure it out and get it. So tomorrow I can do that and hopefully get rid of these buffering issues because it's getting ridiculous. I mean, I have cut it down. I'm not even streaming to Rumble anymore at the same time. And so I'd like to get that fixed. But anyways, enough of my stuff. So, all right, you guys are going over to Grandma's. I will see you guys all tomorrow, either at 5:30 or 6. Maybe we'll just say 5:45. I don't know. Turn your notifications on so that way when the thumbnail or when the link is posted, you all will know. It's always will be posted in Discord so that you get everything. You get all your news and information there, except for the news part. All right. See you guys all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night. And I will talk to you. There we go. All in a little, well, not in a little bit, tomorrow.